Welcome back, everybody, to the Streakers Island podcast. Oh my gosh, Dan just saw the Holy Grail. His light's just like, oh. We could tell someone realized he forgot to turn his light on, and he didn't want me complaining to him after. Be like, Dan, you look dark. Anyways, it is I, Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst, joined by the usual suspects. We have Mr. More for Your Money.
Woo!
Chazzy. Update 6.99, like Brooklyn 99, phenomenal show. And Mr. Lane Dashing Dashco. We got a very busy show. We're going to go over more into NHL free agency, starting to break down the Oilers and the Leafs, two teams that their fan bases have really mixed reviews on how the last 48 hours have gone. The Milwaukee Bucks have already moved on from one superstar and may be moving on from another. We're going to talk about that. Does the CFL need more fan engagement? We did a recent trip to Ottawa, and it kind of opened up some perspectives. We're going to get into week 5 of the Canadian Football League, go over our power rankings heading into week 5, and so much more. But before we get into any of that, for the first time in Streakers On podcast history, boys, we're going to start the show off about the Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Toronto Blue Jays almost blew an 8-0 lead. But then they didn't. They ended up winning the game 9-11 off of some 8th inning heroics to get the victory. So that they're now up 3 games. They've won 3 straight now against
3 in a row, baby.
So if they win the next one, they can sweep the Yankees. They are currently tied with the Yankees now for first in the AL. And Lane, when we were talking off camera, you did not see this coming.
No, I was going to say I did not have the Blue Jays in the start of July on my bingo card for 2025. Let me tell you that. I got to be honest, I'm very impressed with this team. You know, they showed it back in the graphic. I couldn't believe it when they showed it on the air there that back in May that they were 8 games behind. And now we're here not even 2 months later, and we're tied for first in the AL East. And you know what? I'll be the first person on it. I might have to owe Atkins and Shapiro a public apology for the Streakers Island podcast coming from yours truly, Dashing Lane Dashco, because I said that you should be fired and you don't know what you're doing, but clearly you do because you got a team behind you that's making some big waves. They're getting big wins no matter how they're getting it. You know, you got Barger who's become an all-star out of a sudden. Everyone's clicking. The roster's going well. The pitching's going well. Everything's falling into place at the right time for the Blue Jays. And I think it's sweep the Yankees and hit first place. That's a tremendous spot for the Blue Jays to be in the middle of the season here.
The only thing I will say is, I don't know if you boys felt this, when they didn't walk Aaron Judge and he hit that homer, I'm like, game's over. That's how I felt. So I give this team a lot of credit that they bounced back from that. However, I still will not understand Schneider's decision to not just walk him.
So I did hear what they were trying to say on the radio. They did say, you know, at the end of the day, and this I don't know if you think about it from this perspective, but they did kind of say, you think about the position you're in. If you walk Aaron Judge and the next guy gets a home run, you're down by 1. Now you don't know. Now, does Aaron Judge have a likely chance of hitting a home run based if you pitch to him? Yes, of course he does. Does the guy have as good of a chance of hitting a home run? No. But I think what they said on the radio was you take your chances here on Aaron Judge because even if he did hit the home run, which he did, but even if he did hit the home run, the worst thing that you could happen is you're at a tie game. If you give it to the next guy and he comes up and hits a bomb to left field, then you're down a run. So you take the risk.
I look at it, though. They got the next 2 guys out. So if they walked Aaron Judge, they would have had the lead going in. I don't know.
You never know. You never know, though.
I totally get it, but it's kind of like how I've said in hockey. I don't understand why teams just leave Ovechkin open in his office on the power play all the time. Just take him out of the equation and make it a 4-on-3. I think in that situation, if I'm the manager, and again, they won, so maybe I'm just being an idiot by even having this conversation. But at the end of the day, if I'm the manager in that situation, I would much rather have faced the other guys, and this is no disrespect to them, than Aaron Judge, who he's a game breaker, right? And he's a guy. He's not just a big hitter statistically. It seems to be whenever the Yankees need something big, Aaron Judge is the one who gets it done. So
that's why he makes all the money, right? Like I do agree with you, Jacob. I thought it was a poor decision by Snyder.
But you also
Aaron Judge. The reason why you pitch to Aaron Judge is because you have faith in your pitching and you have faith in your defense. So even though the pitcher got out the home run for Aaron Judge, they were able to keep it a tie game so that they could get the 2-1 league in the eighth. Now that's risking a lot, in my opinion. But the other thing I would say, though, I was not surprised that the Jays won tonight, and I'll tell you why. I've been saying since day one, this team is different, and it's a good team this year. And I've been saying 98 wins. Maybe 98 wins are hard to get, but a good team finds a way to win, no matter how ridiculous it is. It's like before the Panthers, right? No matter how much of underdog they were on paper, they found a way to win. It was like the Edmonton Oilers in the Los Angeles series. They found a way to win. It was like the Maple Leafs in a lot of these regular season heroics. They were down by a lot, and they found a way to win. The $1 million question is, okay, can the Jays keep doing this throughout the season to get into the playoffs? Which I think they can. The $1 million question is, if they do get in the playoffs, can this group and this core can do it in the playoffs? Find a way to win in the playoffs. Don't forget, too, this series against the Yankees, best team in the division, has been winning without Boulder set in the lineup and without Vaso, how you say it? That really good defensive. What?
Varsho,
thank you. I really like that guy. That really good defensive player in the outfield. He doesn't get the winning support, but he's very good defensively. So I think the fact that the Jays are finding a way to win, and without Goldsman as well, one of our top pitchers. So I think the fact that they're finding a way to win in a game where, because let's face it, Jacob, after they blew an 8-0 lead, they could have been like you and just lost all faith. We saw that with the Maple Leafs in round 2 against Florida Panthers. As soon as Lane called it here on the island, as soon as they lost game 2 in overtime, that group lost faith. Whether it was a whole team or just Mitch Marner and the Big Four, but that group lost faith. And the Blue Jays easily could have lost faith tonight after giving up an 8-0 lead against the Yankees, but they didn't lose faith, and they found a way to get it done. So I believe this team is the real deal. It comes down to, really, what do they do at trade deadline? It really puzzles me because there's no salary cap in baseball. You're owned by the Dodgers, which has a lot of...
no crying in baseball.
Yeah, no crying even. Don't want that. So it's like, fine, spend the money, put on your big boy pants, spend the money this trade deadline, and get someone good for this team, please, and for this fan base. Let's go.
Yeah, you look at like their record too, like 1, 2, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, now 6-1 in your last 7 games. I agree. You know what? I think this is going to, I know what we've said about the management here, and they have. There's no doubt in my mind they have failed to bring in big names, but this is maybe now the time that you might see Atkins and Shapiro get a little bit creative here at the deadline with some players, on the Colorado Rockies or the Rockies or the Vegas Athletics. Maybe we see some players finally get traded here in the offseason to upgrade in certain positions. But I definitely think this team has turned itself around, and they definitely deserve some respect. I know I was laughing at them at the start of the year, and I think a lot of fans were laughing at them, thinking this was going to be a repeat of what we've seen. And the kind of the feeling has changed a bit that we didn't really think that this team was a serious team, and we kind of felt like okay, coming in, are we going to keep Vladdy? Is Vladdy a mistake? What's going on with Bo? Springer's a year older. Oh no, the pitching is good, but the hitting's not here. We're bringing in a bunch of rookies. What's going to happen here? Well, like you said, they're finding ways to win. Guys have stepped up. They've, I got to give credit to John Schneider. Does he make some bad decisions? Of course. Do I think he's an A-plus manager? No, I don't. But what he's done with this lineup and able to get the production that he's been getting from this lineup, from putting guys in certain positions, moving Barger behind Guerrero to create a more of a 2-3 threat here. Moving Springer around. Springer used to lead off the team. Now Springer's up and down the lineup, contributing. Alejandro Kirk is having a bounce back here. You got Ernie Clement, who's been off and on here, So they're definitely getting their production from different players in different nights. And it seems like this team doesn't really quit now, whereas it felt like, going into last year or when they're losing, it feels like this team still gives trust a lot. And I feel like the veteran leadership, especially from a guy like Chazzy talked about in Max Scherzer, I do think that might be helping a little bit because he has that veteran leadership to tell them, hey, boys, it's 4-2. We got to do this. I see that guy walking up and down that dugout, talking to those guys. He's running back and forth like a madman. But I got to give him credit. I think having him in that dugout, talking to the boys, saying, hey, what, we're down 5-2. We just got to go up there and get these hits, and you just got to play your game. He's kind of like almost like a coaching role. I really got to respect that because I didn't think of that when he was out. But ever since he's been back and seeing him in that role, I got to give a lot of respect to Max Scherzer.
But I gotta interject a little bit here, boys. When I was ripping the Jays a new one for losing the way they were losing, you guys said to me, no one cares about whatever month baseball. Does anyone? How important I get what they're doing right now is important. However, it's only July. And I get this is a big series. I get now even if you lose the next one, you win the series 3-1, but you play the Yankees 2 more times coming up, number one in July, then another one I believe in September. It's that September series that, let's be honest, that will be the deal breaker potentially on if you win. And also too, the Blue Jays are playing well. The Yankees are also just playing bad. You got to look. The Yankees had 2 errors tonight, which caused 2 runs, especially the error by the catcher in the 8th inning. Now, mind you, that was only his 3rd time ever starting as a catcher in Major League Baseball. So that's a tough situation for him to be in. But yes, the Jays are playing well. I think we should be happy about it. I'm not planning the parade for the World Series yet. I'm not even planning the parade. No. I'm not even pre-selling tickets yet for the playoffs. Yes, they are playing well. Do this in September. Then I'll be starting to talk about, okay, this team's changed, this team's different, because this team going in this night had the exact same record that 2 years ago and 3 years ago at this point in the season.
True.
So, yes, what they're doing is impressive, but it's also, let's be honest, it's nothing new. And what they've done the last few years is failure. So I'm curious here, and I want Chazzy to go first. He's just been sitting there quiet, and I make Chazzy speak, and I'm making him into a celebrity. Chazzy, when we talked Toronto Maple Leafs, we said conference finals are bust. Do we feel the Jays are in a situation where they need to get minimum a certain amount of rounds, or this year's a failure?
No, I think we're just anticipating some playoffs. Now that you've locked up Vladdy, it's his anticipation of they want to win, right? So I just feel like you've anchored yourself around Vladdy. You got the momentum, and now we're seeing that labor, that fruit just growing over the last month and a half, 2 months since that signing, which is exactly what they should have done before. But it is what it is, and we'll see if they can continue to play. And like you said, the pitching's phenomenal. We said the bullpen had to get better, and Springer is, what did they say? He's hitting like over almost 500 last week, or something like that. So
he touched everything he touches is gold.
So, by your opinion, though, Chaz, you'd say playoffs are bust. This team has to make the playoffs, and if they didn't, it's a failure.
It'd be a disappointment with this sort of roster.
How would it not be a failure, though? If you're tied with the Yankees in July for first in the AL, and you don't make the playoffs, you just paid Vladdy around $500 million. I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, especially right now when you're seeing Bo Bichette, who's apparently too injured to play, but he's not injured enough to be walking up and down the dugout looking quite fine. Just saying, I think that for me, the Jays have to make the playoffs and they have to win a round. That's my thing for me. They have to either win a round or win the division. They can't go out in the wild card again, and they have to make the playoffs. If not, then I still want some change in this group.
I disagree.
And everyone's all happy because we won the game. We won in dramatic fashion. That's terrific. I'm also looking at it as you almost blew an 8-0 lead. So It's great they won. I get no one. They don't ask how. They ask how many. And at the end of the day, they got the win. But there are still things I think this team needs to be more consistent in. We never seem to have we don't very often have a game where the starting pitcher, the bullpen, the offense, and the defense all shows up. It's always one element that's missing. I still feel for this Jays team. And also, too, we saw Jimenez at that ankle injury. We don't know what that's going to be, right? That's a huge, especially with Bouchette's boo-boo. That's what I'm going to call it right now because he looks completely fine walking up and down the dugout. I could be wrong.
Wow.
But I've never been a big Bo Bichette fan on a real talk level here. But at the end of the day, if Jimenez goes down, Bichette still hurt. And, yeah, you have
time for Orville Martinez
really well in Varshall's position, but that could also falter.
Wait.
Yeah, Springer's hitting the ball great right now, but George Springer, talk about an inconsistent batter. I think if you look it up in the dictionary, George Springer's happy face comes up. He's inconsistent. So, yes, I'm happy the Jays got this win. Yes, I'm happy they're tied with the Yankees. I feel you guys are planning the parade when we shouldn't even be looking at buying a float yet.
No, I'm not planning the parade. I'm just saying, when you look at this is why I don't think it's a failure, Jacob. I know what you're saying. The reason I don't consider it a failure is because coming in this year, I didn't even think they were going to win 80 games.
Right.
I looked at this roster and said, if this team finishes 5, I wasn't Dan here. No offense, Dan. I wasn't Dan saying 96 wins. I said if they win 75 games, I'll be impressed. I said, honest to God, if they finish 500, I'd say that's a good season. This team coming in was not that good on paper outside of the pitching, Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero. There was a lot of holes. There was a lot of question marks. There was a lot of what ifs. Can this team bounce back? This team was an under 500 club that was very underwhelming. It's basically the same team they ran back. They didn't really add to it outside of Max Scherzer. They didn't bring in any big-name free agent hitters. They lost a lot of things. I didn't look at this team on paper and say, wow, this is a really good team that I think can be a serious contender. I said, this team's going to win 70 games. And I thought I was laughing at people like Dan who said 98 wins. I said, 98 wins maybe in 6 years from now.
I totally agree with Lane on this.
I'm not planning the parade. I'm just saying I'm just a little happy that I can actually sit down, put on sports in the middle of July and actually enjoy a baseball game. I'm happy I could sit down, turn on Fan 49 home on the way on the QEW on the Escarpment there when I have to sit in traffic for 2.5 hours and listen to Ben Shulman and actually be anticipating what's going to happen in the 6th inning. I'm happy that I can enjoy my summer. I'm always sitting here miserable about Mitch Marner, and I'm going to be miserable about him in 20 minutes. I'm miserable that the Leafs can't do anything for their lives. I'm miserable that the Raptors aren't good. I want to enjoy something. I'm happy. The Ticats usually suck. The Leafs suck. This team doesn't suck right now. I'm a happy boy right now.
I totally agree with Lane. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where did the Jays miss the wild card last year?
They weren't even 500. They weren't even 500.
Exactly. So
they underperformed last year. It's not like they were a team that was expected to be bad. They underperformed. And even right now, yes, they are playing very well. If the Yankees weren't playing like deal double dog poop, they wouldn't be first in the East or tied for first in the AL East.
I don't expect them to be there.
You guys are telling me though you expected the Yankees to fall apart the way they've fallen apart. They've been terrible.
No, of course not.
They've been terrible. This series they've been
actually did expect
June they were 8-10. The Yankees were 9 games under 500 in June. Yes, it's remarkable what the Jays have done. But I'm seeing people say in hockey the Calgary Flames aren't that great because Minnesota almost collapsed. Could you make the same argument comparing the Jays to the Yankees right now? And I'm happy the Jays are winning. I hope my negativity is wrong about how I'm feeling about this group. Until they win games in September.
We're not there yet, Joe. How can you want them to win games in September? We're not in September yet. Okay, right now in July,
when we were
being successful.
When we were talking Leafs from game 1 before the island was a thing, Chazzy discovered the island when he was looking for milk. And we all said the Toronto Maple Leafs conference finals are bust.
But the Leafs are in a different role.
No, it's not different.
Yes, they are, Jacob.
They have spent an astronomical amount of money on these players. Between Vladdy Guerrero Jr., you're potentially going to make Bo Bichette the highest paid shortstop in the entire league. You're paying George Springer a lot of money. You're paying Dalton Varsho a lot of money. You're paying your pitching staff a lot of money. So, no, it's not different. The Blue Jays were so close, and then they blew it up, and everyone said, oh, it's so we can get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and so we can get Bo Bichette. And so far, the Vladdy Bichette era has been crap.
I agree with that.
Do it in September and October, yes, I'm happy they won on Wednesday night, Wednesday Night Fever. But I'm not as confident as you guys are. I'll put it that way. I'm not.
What I'm going to say,
you're not seeing complete games. We're not seeing complete wins where every facet is working. And until I start to see that consistently, I'm not confident. It's like when
team is doing that.
It's like when the Oilers kept making all these comeback wins, and we're like, well, they can't do that against Florida. And then guess what? They didn't. I'm not confident in this Jays team yet that almost blew an 8-0 lead. I'm happy they got the job done. I think it does show character. I think it does show growth. Can they do that in September? That's what I'm waiting for until I'm really confident in this group. I
got a few comments to make here. Okay. Yeah. I think if the Jays make the wild card this year, it's a success considering
they gotta win.
where
they gotta
the Jays started.
Win me a damn round.
Okay.
I don't care.
Next, moving on. I get what you're saying about the Yankees. I am actually not surprised the Yankees fell apart because the Yankees just didn't make the World Series and lost. They blew the World Series embarrassingly. How can you blow the World Series like that last year and come back with their heads how high this year? That was a pathetic World Series. We all know that. So I'm not surprised one bit that the Yankees fell apart. And the other fair comment I have to say, Jacob, is would you consider the Tampa Bay Rays a bad team this year? Would you consider them a bad team?
I would say they're underperforming.
Tampa Bay.
AL East is underperforming in general this year.
Tampa Bay is only half a game behind the Yankees and the Jays will freeway tie for the first
the Yankees have not been playing
the
well.
Rays are 8 games over 500, which is pretty good. So you can't say the Yankees are struggling when the Rays have the exact same thing. So the fact is the Blue Jays are beating the Rays and the Yankees lead and 6 games above the Red Sox.
Dan, at the end of the day, going into June, the Yankees had between an 8 to 11 game lead going into June on all these teams.
Yep.
Yes, what these other teams have done is cute, but the Yankees have also fallen apart. And still, at the end of the day, I have more faith in September that the Yankees will figure it out than I do in the Jays. I think the Yankees will forget how to play baseball by October, but in September, they figure it out. And I'm sorry, but paying Vladdy Guerrero Jr. to only make it to the wild card, I'm like, give me a break. Remember, I always say I want consistency on the island. You went on and on and on. It was an absolute failure when Austin Matthews didn't do enough to get them to the conference finals. And it was an absolute failure. And let me finish my point before you guys interject. This whole team here, it's been all the Bichette Vladdy plan. The Bichette Vladdy plan. We blew up a team that almost made it all the way so we could have these young studs. And how many playoff rounds have they won? How many playoff rounds have they won since they got them? And how many years?
0.
That's a failure. That is an absolute failure. And I'm sick and tired of Toronto being happy with mediocrity. And you might say, but Jacob, you weren't this angry when the Argos were 0-3 to start the year. Okay, but they've given me 2 championships in 3 years. They've given me 4 championships in 7 years. The Blue Jays haven't given me a championship since I was born. No, that's not acceptable to me. There's a difference. I have a different standard. And 2, for the Blue Jays, they're like the Raptors. It's not just the 6 you're building this for. It's for the country. So no, you can't pay all these guys these astronomical amount of money. Same with Santander, who is either terrible or injured. So no, I'm not saying I'm mad about the win. Obviously, I'm happy that they won. But at the end of the day, until you do this in September and October, who gives two craps about July? Go ahead, Lane.
Okay. All I want to say, Jacob, I love you. I love that rant. I love the passion. Finally, not me screaming for once. So I love that I can say my anger. But here's the only thing I'm going to say, interject. And I just want you to point it out that I do think you're right. Okay, here's what I'll say. I think you're right. I do think that you can say that this era been a failure. That's not a question. That's 100% fact. The Vladdy Bichette era has not been great. But all I'm saying is, and I think you're misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm just saying here, you look at it, we've only made the playoff. You said the Leafs. The Leafs have been in the playoffs for now, I think it's almost 9 years in a row.
It's 9 years straight. The Leafs have made the playoffs.
So you said to compare the Leafs. The Leafs are in the playoffs for 9 straight years in a row and have only made the second round twice. That is a way bigger failure than only making the playoffs 3 times since 2016. Only making the playoffs. But you're not a playoff team.
Making the playoffs matters.
But they haven't made the playoffs. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. They haven't been making the playoffs. That's my point.
Right.
Making the playoffs matters. The Blue Jays are not even getting there yet.
You can't compare them to the Leafs. So you're saying how are the Leafs?
Yes, you can, because you went out and got these studs. You spent the money on these top players. They're supposed to be a generational talent. And at the end of the day, you can say you can't. If anything, the Leafs are further ahead than the Jays, because at least the Leafs can make the damn playoffs, and we can beat the Ottawa Senators once in a blue moon, or the Tampa Bay Lightning when they don't have half their lineup. So there you go. The Blue Jays can't even do that. The Jays get into a wild card. When was last time? Never mind a series. When was the last time they won a playoff game?
Here's the thing, Jacob.
So until they do that, no, and I'm seeing it too all over social media. People are going on that this team could win it all this year. And
no, I'm not saying
no.
Win me a playoff game. Win me a round.
We're not saying
if they don't win me a round, tell Bull Bichette to get out of here. Like it's time. This has got to be it, boys, because if not, the Jays will become the Leafs. We will continue to accept mediocrity, and we'll be 6 years down the road, and we still will have nothing to show for it. Look at the Toronto Raptors as a prime example. They couldn't get over the hump, so they did the unthinkable and traded DeMar DeRozan. And when younger me was furious, but it got them over the hump. If they can't get over a new hump this year, something has to change.
I agree with that.
Accepting not making the playoffs or making the playoffs and then getting spanked like someone might want to in their bedroom. It can't keep happening. But Chazzy, you've been super quiet again, so I'm calling you out again on the island.
We're still on Jays, and you guys are making some good points. So,
but are you on Lane and Dan's side? Or are you on the analyst side? Remember, I'm the self-proclaimed sports analyst.
No, I'm a hybrid of you both.
What a woke answer.
He's Switzerland. Jazzy Switzerland. Okay, to just add, Jacob, to Lane's point, you're comparing the Blue Jays to the Maple Leafs, which I get they're in the same city. But that's like comparing the Jays to the Leafs. It's like comparing the New York Yankees to the New York Islanders, okay?
Pretty much.
The Yankees are the Mecca. The Yankees are the Mecca of baseball. The Yankees spend billions of dollars in getting great supporting players and staff and scouts and all that stuff. They got unlimited budget. The Maple Leafs are the same thing. The Maple Leafs get the best players in Captain Underpants, spend the most money to get the best players to support them, spend the most money possible in coaching and scouting, so you expect them to do something. The Blue Jays team is a mid-market city at best, like the New York Islanders. So, yeah, if they're in the same city.
Not. They're owned by Rogers, for Pete's sakes. They have more money than what they know what to do with.
They have the highest 50.
They're poor.
I'm not saying they're poor.
That is the worst take.
I'm not saying they're poor.
They do have the 5th highest payroll in the MLB, so I was curious.
Absolutely wrecked.
I'm not
Okay,
saying
so let me
before.
put it this way then. LA Kings in the NHL, are they a success or a failure?
Right
Do
now,
they
I
keep
guess.
losing in the first round with all this high-end talent and all this
I would
regular
compare-
season success?
I would compare the Jays to where the LA Kings are right now. I think
Buffalo
that's more.
Sabres. Buffalo Sabres. All this high-end talent can't make it to the playoffs. What have
fair.
the Jays not been able to do consistently? Make the playoffs. People were surprised LA didn't sell this year, and we've been talking about the Buffalo Sabres moving on from Tage frickin' Thompson, who I think will be a 60-goal scorer in the right situation.
60.
So yeah, he's scoring 40 he's scoring high
Probably
30s, low 40s on a crap team. Put him on a good team. Put him in Vegas with Marner, and all of a sudden he'll score 60.
And he'll play with Jack Eichel again.
But I'm too passionate to be happy with mediocrity. It's cute what the Jays are doing right now. Do it in September.
We're not in September yet.
Well, wake me up when September ends. Green Day.
Okay. Yeah.
Good
I
song.
would say mic drop, but dropping a mic can damage it. And I have had this microphone since grade 9.
Mike?
Uh-oh.
Dan, I
Please
paid for
don't.
that mic.
Mike?
No, don't drop that.
Mike?
Okay, anyways, before Dan breaks the island's equipment, let's move on to NHL free agency, because I think we're gonna have some more arguments here. I think half the GMs in the NHL are clueless.
Yeah.
They're spending way too much money for mediocre talent. They're not filling the holes that they need. And then people get mad at a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs for not doing anything when no one's out there to make their team any better. Like,
I actually like what Treliving said, to be honest.
I love what Treliving's doing, because sometimes the best thing you can do.
He just said
the best thing you can do is nothing.
That's big. He just was on Overdrive today, and he was like, "I don't get what the feedback is." He's like, "I don't know. I don't think like there's any real players that around here that are going to make us that much better if we spend everything on them. I think we can kind of sit back, wait for teams to make their moves, and kind of attack the." He's like, "I don't think we're going to have a team ready to probably late August, early September before I'm really happy with this roster. I kind of want to sit back. I want to evaluate what teams are doing, evaluate on the market, and kind of see what I can do here instead of overspending and using all my cap to get players that are not necessarily going to be a fit. I'd rather just get little small pieces and then attack when I need to attack."
Wow.
I actually like it. I
like that too.
Well, and when we look at the top players who are still left on the board, which originally I had Brett Burns on this list, but he was just signed to Colorado for around $1 million over 1 year. Who is currently tied for 4th in the Ironman race, playing, I think it was 976 straight games.
Great signing for Colorado, by the way.
I love this signing for Colorado. I think it just adds a little bit of depth. It makes it so Cale Makar doesn't have to play the full 2 minutes on every power play.
I'm surprised he could sign only $1 million. That's a great bargain.
40.
I thought he was going to get between 3.5 and 4. I really did.
Well, Colorado has a functioning brain, unlike LA. You paid Corey Perry $3.5 million, which is insane.
Well, that's what I was comparing it to, right?
Corey Perry is not a $3.5 million player. He's not.
Oh, he had 19 goals, dude. He dominated the playoffs playing beside McDavid.
$3.5 million at his age, because at his age, that's like saying I'm going to pay Calvin Pickard $6 million because he won 6 straight playoff games.
Wow.
And you're not. That'd be stupid.
But here's a $1 million question.
Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks to Mr. Lane Daskell, I got this amazing list showing the free agents are still available, because a lot of free agents did sign in the past 48 hours. But we do have some decent players on this list. And like what Jacob and Treliving are saying, it's not a good list. It's not a list of all-stars. But there is one player here I did not put on the strip because I want to see everyone's reaction to it, who I think is going to get signed, and it's going to be a great player for a team. I don't think it's going to be Toronto. I'm not going to say who, but for a team. And does anyone want to take a guess who that is? No?
There's 100 players, so.
Okay, I will say it. If I was a GM, I'm going to sign Evgeny Konechkov from the KHL.
No.
I think it's the best player besides Nicholas
He is more washed than your laundry after you put it in with the Tide.
He's only 33 years old.
You know
he's
what,
younger
Dan?
than me. He's younger than that's not younger than you, but he's younger than me.
Bye, Dan. Terrible take. Kuznetsov is not leaving the KHL. He's being paid an astronomical amount of money over there. He's going to come here for peanuts. And his last stint in Carolina was not very good.
Yeah, Carolina.
You're right, Dan. A team that only makes it to the conference finals been back-to-back years. Yeah, who cares?
No, I'm not saying I just mean a lot of high-end players don't want to play there, like Rantanen.
Okay, but Rantanen's big. But when we look at
Kuznetsov's bad.
I don't see Kuznetsov coming back to the NHL. A player that I'm really
That's a wild take.
It is. But like I have our top 5 here of this is really in no particular order, but Nikolai Ehlers, Dmitry Orlov, Jack Roslovic, Jeff Skinner, and Max Pacioretty. Max Pacioretty I have the huge question mark on because originally I thought he was either going to go back to Toronto or retire. But hearing what Lane was telling me off camera, it sounds like that's not so much the case, and there could be a whole situation of him and Ryan Reeves of tampering on the Mitch Marner situation. I'm going to keep it a buck here. I honestly think Marner has known he was going to go to Vegas this year, a year ago. Like I think Marner knew what he was going to do. And you know what? At the end of the day, we've all worked at a job when we knew we were going to quit within the next year. I don't really understand why fans are so angry about it. He stayed, he did his thing, and now he left. Move on with your lives. You have better things to use your energy on, like being angry at the Toronto Blue Jays after an 11-9 win, than be angry at Mitch Marner, because the beautiful thing is it's done. He's gone. Yes, it's going to be hard to replace 102 points. We'll get more into that later, but it's done and it's gone. But I think Max Pacioretty is going to go to Montreal.
Yeah, maybe
and they're going to move either Gallagher or Anderson, and they're going to have Max Pacioretty fill that role instead.
Or if you love Vegas so much, why don't you go sign there for?
Because Vegas has no interest in guys in their late 30s who are washed.
He should pay Vegas to play there.
He has no interest in going to Vegas.
Well, apparently that's not true. Apparently he went around the locker room saying, "Hey, Mitch Marner, get out of here and go to Vegas." So you know what? How about Max Pacioretty, put your money where your mouth is. Take all the money you've earned over your career and give it to the GM and say, "I will play here for $67 million because I love Vegas. I love to gamble every night. I like to go to the casino and go, woo-hoo, I want to play the slot machines." And Ryan Reeves, you can go fight with some money shark when you lost all your money at the slot. You go fight somebody in the middle of the street and lose because you can't fight anymore. And you're irrelevant. Get the heck out of the NHL. Go away. You're a bum. Retire. Nobody cares. You're irrelevant. Bye-bye.
By Toronto bringing in the guy, Chazzy, help me out. His long name starts with a P from Montreal.
Who?
The guy that was calling pizza. Pizza, whatever.
Yeah.
Pizzotti. By the Leafs bringing in Pizzotti, it tells me they have no interest in bringing in Ryan Reeves again, because Pizzotti's a fighter.
You can't blame Ryan Reeves,
but he's a fighter who can actually skate. But I to move off the Leafs for a little bit here, I think when we look at these players, I'm interested in Max Pacioretty to see if anyone takes him at his age, because he did have some playoff success in Toronto. Nikolai Ehlers I've seen a lot of people saying Toronto should get him. Toronto has no interest in paying Nikolai Ehlers $8 million, which is what he is going to get bare minimum. If Mikael Granlund's getting $7 million, I think Nikolai Ehlers might get $9 million just because of the market. Because if you're desperate, Washington, Carolina, or I know, Lane, you put in Washington, Carolina script. I've also heard rumors about the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Chris Johnson did say tonight
we're desperate.
Chris Johnson,
and a desperate team will make a stupid signing. And I don't think Nikolai Ehlers is worth $9 million. However, he might get it because there's literally no one else available. Like, there's no one on the list who's even close to Nikolai Ehlers. He is by far the best player on the list.
Likely.
Now, Chris Johnson did put out
overpay him.
Now, I did hear Chris Johnson did put out a report. The reason why I put that was that seems to be that reason why he hasn't signed is because it's either Washington or Carolina. They're kind of in a bidding war right now. They are the 1 and 2. They're like a horse neck and neck right now, coming to the finish line. They keep up in the offer, and no one has stopped the bidding war yet. So it sounds like maybe. It's basically Washington, Carolina bidding on him right now.
By just keeping Brock Besser.
The thing is, I think about Nikolai Ehlers is I think he's the closest replacement to Mitch Marner.
I don't care. I'm not paying him that much.
I think you have to get someone in there to replace Mitch Marner.
I don't
you got
think you do.
No, you got Maselli.
Oh my gosh, Maselli is not going to get 102 points.
Okay, Dan, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
I want to know. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
Remember when Sam Bennett was on the Calgary Flames? I just want to ask you something. Do you remember when he was on the Calgary Flames?
Yeah.
And he was putting up 20 points a season, 25 points a season, and the guy got traded for a fourth-round pick, and everyone was like, "Whoa, that was a lot for Sam Bennett." You know, sometimes you have to take gambles on guys. Maselli is a young winger who has the potential. He's still young and has been playing on a team with no real talent around him and still getting 40 points. You're going to put Maselli with either William Nylander Tavares or Austin Matthews and Matthew Knies. This guy's going to pick up points like it's going out of style. The thing that people don't realize is, Mitch Marner's a 100-point player because he plays with Austin Matthews. Because he plays with someone who scores goals. Because he plays with William Nylander. Because he plays with John Tavares. He plays with guys who pick up points. All you have to do is be standing on a line with them. You can play with Connor McDavid and be a 10-point guy and get 200 points because you're playing with Connor McDavid. The skill. The reason the Leafs get these guys, it's just a perfect move because they get someone who's undervalued that no one has their eye on, and all he has to do is stand there on a guy with people around him who have the talent to put the puck in the net, and this guy's going to get secondary assists more than I have Pop every night. He's and the same with Nicholas Waugh. Look at him. He's a 40-point center. Yeah, Sam Bennett was a 40-point center too, and then he became an 80-point player. They're doing good things because they're picking up guys that have low value now but have the potential to reach higher totals with guys who have skill. You don't need 10 guys. You just need 3 guys to fill in the roster. That's something Edmonton has gotten away from. They've gone the opposite way where they're just relying on all these 4 guys now. I feel like it's really switched. You saw what Edmonton did before where they just need like 2 or 3 guys to carry the ship and everyone picks up points around them because it's just easy to get points. I really love what the Leafs have done. I really like what Treliving has done here. I think Maselli will be a standout player.
I really hope, Lane, that you're right and Maselli is a great player. I'm not buying it. I really like Sam Bennett. I believe from day one Sam Bennett would be a dominant player.
No one believed in him at the time.
I know, but I did. I believe that Nicholas Waugh was a great trade for Toronto. I think he might be a 60-point guy in Toronto. I think he will dominate as a Maple Leaf. Maselli, I'm not buying it at the moment, but I'm hoping
you're just not buying. You know absolutely nothing about him. So give him.
Am I wrong or right, Jacob? Like
maybe that's it.
He plays with nobody, makes 40 points, and plays with absolutely no one.
I agree with you, Lane. Personally, I think in the right
look
situation,
who he plays with.
I think in the right situation, I don't think he's going to be a 100-point guy. I think he could be a 70-point guy.
I'm not saying 100, but like
I'm saying 70 points, and Austin Matthews goes back to scoring. We'll even say 50 goals instead of 30. Well, there's your 90. You have Max Domi, who's probably going to put up more points, getting top 6 minutes. All of a sudden, there's your 102 points. But I am curious what you guys think about some of these other studs that are still available. And Dmitry Orlov is by far the best defenseman left on the market. When's Boston signing him?
Yeah, exactly.
That's who I think's desperate for him. You got to replace
think Boston,
Carlo. Pardon?
You think Boston, eh?
I think Boston. I don't think Boston is going to try to retool and not rebuild because you still have
going for LA. They haven't spent enough money yet.
You're hoping Jeremy Swayman was just a fluke year.
I think that was a fluke.
And you need someone to replace Brandon Carlo. I thought they might have went for Brent Burns, but I think Brent Burns wants to try to win a cup, and he feels Colorado is his best chance of doing it. So I could see Boston really going for him. I could see Calgary, since they're going to be losing Rasmus Anderson very soon by the looks of it. But any team that's looking for a defenseman, Dmitry Orlov is the best defenseman left. So where is he going to go? I don't know, but I'm just saying I could really see Boston or Calgary, especially Calgary, if they're going to lose Rasmus Anderson. They have a younger defensive core. Dmitry Orlov fits their build of D because he's a bigger physical guy, but he can also skate. I don't know. I think Dmitry Orlov, and let's be real here, I think the team may end up overpaying Dmitry Orlov just because the market's thinning.
You think like
Maybe
7 or 8?
Eight. Maybe he gets 9. Maybe he gets 9. I think it'll be very interesting because originally everyone thought Ehlers was going to be signed by Wednesday, but he's not. So maybe by the time this is released, Ehlers is signed. But let's say Ehlers gets 10, which is theoretically possible. Orlov is the next best player left. Maybe
I could see Dallas.
You think? I don't think Dallas has the cap space. Unless
I forgot they have nothing. I forgot they have nothing. I forgot. Yeah, I kind of forgot nothing.
But then
I forgot they have nothing.
You also have a Jack Roslovic if anyone's looking for a top 9 who can be a top 6 forward. That's a guy that's going to be tough for Winnipeg to replace. And I get they feel Jonathan Toews kind of does that, but that's a huge risk because Jonathan Toews might be crap. We don't know.
Yeah.
So Roslovic. And actually, when you getting to Toronto again for a quick second here, I could see Toronto or Montreal going for Jeff Skinner.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Especially really Montreal, because Chazzy, I don't know if you'd agree with me or not on this, but I find Martin St. Louis is very good at taking players who everyone thinks are washed and making them really good again. So I could totally see Montreal bringing in Jeff Skinner just to add a little bit of extra scoring.
Yeah.
But that's basically, those are my top 5 players who are left.
I was going to say Dmitry Orlov. Don't forget, he did play in Boston before when Boston made a trade for him. So I have to think Boston is a great pick for him. I call me crazy. Let's say if Washington loses the Ehlers sweepstake, I can see Dmitry Orlov going back to Washington. I really think Washington wants to win the cup with Ovechkin under contract still. Because Ovechkin said he only broke the record. He's not going to retire when he's still under contract. We don't know 100% if he's going to resign once this year is done. He might go back to the KHL and do whatever he does. He might decide he just made his $80 million over his career and might stop playing hockey. Or he might come back, try to win a cup, but it's not guaranteed. But I think Washington wants to try to win a cup this year. I think they have the foundations of a really good team. I think in that series against Carolina, for defense was weak. I think instead of getting Nikolai Ehlers, they should spend that money and bring back Dmitry Orlov for Washington. I think he was.
I have a hot take on Washington. I think they're going to go back to not being very good. I think the team overperformed last year, and I just
see it.
Like Dan Chazzy's so fed up about your take on Washington, he had to leave to just get some air. But but no, I look at this and I think Washington really overperformed, and it just showed what they were when they played Carolina. When they went in a series against a deep team, and say what you want about Carolina, but they're a much deeper roster than Washington. I think Carolina is much closer to beating Florida than people think they are.
And Jacob, I
think Carolina in a lot of ways matches up really well against Florida. And Jacob, I think if you bring in a Nikolai Ehlers, that might just be that last bit of scoring hump you need to get over a team like Florida.
I actually had a good question based on what you're saying here. Do you think that because, let's be honest, Ovechkin, like you said, it was kind of a theater year in a way, right? You were trying to chase this record. This team was motivated. They were getting him the puck. He was scoring goals left, right, and center. It was a miracle season. You had everything go your way. And then you had the plus. Do you think because the Capitals are older, Ovechkin's now another year older, you think that that momentum will kind of derail them a little bit further than the Leafs, who who might be able to bounce back depending on what they get? But
the difference between Washington and the Leafs is your core in Toronto is still in their prime. Your core in Washington is past the expiration date. Yes, what Ovechkin did was incredible last year. He was very motivated to beat Wayne Gretzky. I don't know how motivated he will be to just win another Stanley Cup. That is the big question. And this year will prove coming up, does he care about personal records or does he care about winning championships? Sidney Crosby wants to win championships, which is why I hate that Washington's doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
But again,
well,
though, you know, it's
Dmitry
tough for
Orlov
teams
go
when
to
they're-
Pittsburgh?
No, I don't, because I don't think Pittsburgh will pay Orlov what he'll get in open market. Because Orlov will take less money, I think, to go to a team that could potentially win. Mind you, now, too, Carolina's got to replace 2 defensemen.
Right, yeah.
Right?
That's why they bring them back, to be honest.
The defense pool's thin.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. But what I just mean is, though, is with Washington, and I'm not counting Carolina out of, I'm not counting the Tampa Bay Lightning, who was originally reported by Kaplan from ESPN, saying that, you know, she was saying she heard the Tampa Bay Lightning were really going in on Nikolai Ehlers.
I can see it.
Was interested. She talked about that during like free agent frenzy itself. So I think Ehlers is a perfect fit in Tampa. I'm more curious to see if someone can get Jack Roslovic for under 6, like get him around a $6 million, 4 to 5 year deal. He's a guy, actually, straight up, he is a guy I would actually like to see Toronto bring in. Guy that can play center or wing, put up good points, potentially maybe be the second line center, so Tavares can either go down to the third line or play the wing. It's interesting to see, but I also feel at the same time, again, for Toronto, if this is the lineup they go in with opening night, I'm actually not upset.
I'm not either, to be honest.
If there's nothing available, what I would have been more angry about is if they went out and said, hey, Nikolai Ehlers, we're going to pay you $10 million over 8 years. And I'd be like, cool, core 4 again.
You know what? I think this was a good, like I said, I think you have to look at this year and call it for what it was. It was an okay draft class, but it wasn't anything that's going to make your team different. And I agree with, I got to say, I know everyone's dragging on Brad Treliving that this is the second time that he's lost a superstar and he's going to fail again. And everyone's being like, oh, but, this was a different situation. Calgary, okay, 100% he messed that up in Calgary. But, I think he learned, and I don't think this was his fault. He did try to keep Tavares. He got Tavares on a steal. He got Matthew Naz on a steal contract. Apparently, Mitch Marner decided last year that he was going to go to Vegas no matter what. He likes to go to the Sphere and watch concerts there. There's nothing you can do about that. So at the end of the day, and let's be honest, he wasn't the one that gave him a full no-move clause. That was Shanahan and Kyle Dubas. So
now, interesting thing enough, did you guys hear that Dubas originally wanted to trade Marner in 22-23?
Well, of course.
And Shanahan told him no.
Of course.
So everyone blames Kyle Dubas for a lot of these things in Toronto. I personally think Brandon Shanahan hired Kyle Dubas so so Shanahan could be the GM and not have the pressure of being the GM.
I'm going to call. I will never. There will never be confirmation of this. So this might be a crazy Lane theory, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think Kyle Dubas, when he went up there and he did his little song and dance, I think originally he was just trying to get Shanahan fired. I do. When he had his little press conference and kind of was like,
interesting.
When he had that press conference and he was like, he was just doing all this song and dance and that, I think that he secretly, there's no confirmation of this, but I think secretly, I think he went behind Shanahan's back to be like, yo, give me the keys to the city. And I think Shanahan was blocking his moves. I do believe that.
It was. It's been confirmed.
Yeah, for sure.
But what I want to show you guys is I went ahead and I made what I could see the Leafs projected lines being for next season. So for anyone who's listening via Spotify, I have Nyes, Matthews, Domi, Nylander, Tavares, Marcel, McMahon, Waugh, Yarncroke, Lawton, Lorentz, Kemp. That's
Cowan?
my lines right now.
Who?
No Cowan?
Easton Cowan does not make my opening lineup. No, does not make my lineup.
Really? I think he does.
I think I want him to play in the OHL one more year because I don't think he's ready for the NHL yet. And I think if you bring a stud up too early, it can cause problems. I look at this lineup right now, and this is still a very good lineup. This is a lineup that'll still win you a lot of games.
Oh, it's a wild card for our team at least.
And
It's actually a good lineup.
And
It's not
everyone's
bad.
saying put Nylander with Matthews and Nyes, and I disagree
No.
because I want Matthews and Nyes to drive one line, Nylander and Tavares to drive another. And Waugh is a 40, 50-point guy. McMahon's a 20-goal scorer. Yarn Croak, if he's healthy, he's a 15-goal scorer.
He gets 20 goals pretty consistently.
I think Lawton can probably score 15, 20 goals in a full season. Like, I look at this lineup. We know the defense is pretty deep. The Toronto Maple Leafs have pretty good goaltending. This is a team that still, I think, can win a lot of games.
And what's amazing about that lineup is if you had some injuries, you still had some depth. They did sign Pizzazzo from Montreal. I'm sorry, I'm completely butchering your name, buddy. Who is, I think, is a great signing. And the signing I think Toronto made that no one is talking about, so I'm going to talk about it, is Travis Boyd, my bad. Travis Boyd. Travis Boyd was a Maple Leaf a couple years ago. He played pretty well as a Maple Leaf. They got him for a 1-year minimum contract, $775. It reminds me of the Steven Lorentz contract this time last year. I think this Travis Boyd is going to make the lineup at some point this year. And it's going to make a big difference in Maple Leafs. When he was on the Maple Leafs last time in 2021, in 20 games, he got 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points, and a +1. I think a fourth-line center, that's pretty good. Then he went to Phoenix. He got 35 points, 34 points. Then last year, Phoenix only got 8 points in 16 games due to injuries. I guess he had more injuries this year. He only played 3 games in Minnesota this year. He also had 20 points in Washington and 10 points in Washington a couple years before he joined the Leafs. I think for minimum league contract, Travis Boyd is a great signing for Toronto. I know no one's talking about this, but I think going down the stretch when you have an injury, he's going to step in and make a big difference.
But what I mean to when you look at this lineup, this is a lineup that's good enough to get me to the trade deadline and then bring in a stud.
Yeah.
So they also did sign Vinny Lettieri too, out of Boston.
So that's what I mean. I think the Leafs, they've added some depth because they did lose some depth pieces in Pontus Holmberg and Alex Steeves. And they're probably going to lose Nick Robertson. So those are 3 depth pieces.
You think they're losing Robertson, eh?
I don't think Robertson's going to accept a contract in Toronto. I really don't. So I've seen some people say putting another.
They did qualify him, so he doesn't really.
They did. I just don't see him coming back here unless it's a sign-in trade. But
I would like to see Toronto bring in Pacioretty still too. I don't know.
He's not coming back. He's not coming back.
After that. Sorry, Dan. I'm got to be honest. After the rumors, no. If you're going around, I don't want someone in my locker room saying you should go play somewhere else. That's not passion to me. I'm sorry, I don't. After I heard that, I was like, that guy can go find a nice city.
Maybe he told him to go play somewhere else. He knew how bad he was in the dressing room.
No, Dan.
No. That's just.
And again, I honestly think.
No.
It was the Mitch Marner situation. The Leaf community just needs to move on. It happened. It's done. And
at least we got Nicholas Roy in return.
It hasn't worked.
True.
So
I'm not upset that he's gone.
Now you have a lineup that, in my opinion, by bringing in Marcel and Roy, you got to look at it. Marcelli, sorry. I think with Nylander and Tavares could easily put up 60, 70 points.
So do I.
And we were able to keep Matthew Knives because of this.
Put up, we'll say 40. What's 70 plus 40?
110.
There's your right there. Your Marner points are back. So
and the other thing you're forgetting about this lineup is you still have 7 amazing NHL defensemen under contract
and
a very good value, and you got 2 NHL proven goaltending.
And the good thing is, the number I'm thinking about, still got $7 million left.
In cap space, really?
Yeah, they still got
between 5 and 7 left, depending on how they work their roster.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that's a
That's
lot.
what I'm
They could
saying.
even-
It's Leaf fans. I see a lot of panic, and
I'm
I
not
actually
panicking.
prefer Brad Treliving's approach. When I say I was curious, about, I think we've kind of already touched on it, but with free agency, I think the Leafs are done to free agency. I think
They're
if
not gonna
anything
put anyone.
happens, it's going to be in the trade market. There
Same.
has been the odd rumor about Nazem Kadri being reunited in the Toronto Maple Leafs. I would absolutely love it, but I don't think it's happening.
He might be too old. He might.
I don't
be
think
too
he's
old.
Well,
too old.
$7 million. He gets paid 7.5,
goals
so it could
last year in
happen.
Calgary. You look at, and again, if
I'm
you're
looking at
trying to
Rossi,
beat
man.
a team like Florida,
That's
Nazem
a-
Kadri is your Sam Bennett.
Would you not go in all if they don't mark if the Wild won't win Marco Rossi? Would you be going all in on Marco Rossi?
No,
Why not? He's
he's
super
not. I
young.
don't think he's the type of player you need.
He got almost 60 points, and he's only 22 years old.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the type of player this team needs. I think they still need a little more sandpaper. And that's where I like a guy like Nazem Kadri if he becomes available. I know that's a huge if, and it'll depend on how that goes. But I am very curious to see if the Leafs do that. And I see Chazzy's got some popcorn.
Hey.
So, Chazzy, was this because
Perfect time popcorn since talking Maple Leafs.
We were just talking Leafs, and I was more talking about their lineup, how I actually don't think the Leafs need to make any more moves right away. That if this is your team opening day, I'm more than okay with it.
It sounds like it more likely will be.
Unless you can bring in a guy that I think you can drastically make your team better, like a Nazem Kadri, not saying it's happening, but it's been rumored. He makes your team better. He makes your team a lot better. Paying Nikolai Ehlers $8 to $10 million, and with the way you paid Matthew Nyes more, you're just running into the same problem. So I think the Leafs are done for now. Maybe they might be looking for a third string goalie now with Matt Murray going to Seattle. So maybe you reunite, you bring back in a James Reimer or a Vanacek out of Florida. I don't know, but I mean, the team that more desperately needs a goalie is the Edmonton Oilers. So I'd like to move on to the Oilers. And this is a team when I've seen everyone going, I've seen some people saying Brad Treliving should be fired as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I can exactly I've seen go on social media, those comments are there. I'm more of the mindset in Edmonton. Yeah, you just brought in Mangiapane, so that's great. I actually think
I was gonna say that's a great signing.
60 to 70 point guy at Edmonton in the right situation, depending on if they use him in the top 6.
I really like that signing.
You've lost a lot of high-end talent, a lot of bottom 6 talent in Edmonton recently. You lost Victor Arvidsson, you've lost Connor Brown, and you've lost sorry, it is absolutely pouring rain all of a sudden, so
it's crazy, yeah. It's like we could lose power any minute here, so if we go black, that's why. I was going to say, I do love the Mangiapane signing, and another signing, kind of similar to what I was talking Maple Leafs, no one's going to talk about, as I think it's interesting for Edmonton, is Curtis Lazar. Another player that's a league minimum, 1 year, $775,000. Funny enough, Curtis Lazar was a first overall pick from Ottawa, 2013. Did dominate in Team Canada in the juniors. Kind of mediocre, well, brother say, that's been a terrible NHL player. The most points he got was 20 points in Ottawa back almost 10 years ago. No, sorry, he got 25 points in New Jersey 2 years ago. That's the most he has. I'm not saying Curtis Lazar is going to save the Oilers and give them a Stanley Cup, but I think if an injury happens, he needs some depth. I think that's a good fourth line center for league minimum. I like that signing.
Dan, what was the one thing the Edmonton Oilers needed?
A goaltender. I agree with you.
So why are we happy that they signed Curtis Lazar?
Okay, maybe happy's the wrong word. I'm just saying that
Edmonton is completely failed right now. They overpaid Evan Bouchard at 10.5 over 4 for all the defensive liability he is. He's not Cale Makar. Get that out of your head. You still haven't fixed your goaltender problem. And let's just be honest here. There's not a goalie left.
James Reimer. Eli Samsonoff. I think Edmonton's going to sign him.
Eli Samsonoff is basically Stuart Skinner with different hair. Like he's an inconsistent goalie who can't get it done in the playoffs.
They did sign Matt Thompson, if that means anything.
I don't care. They brought in a third string goalie. That's phenomenal. You already have 2 third string goalies. So
I like the fact that we signed Kapanen.
What's your
Kapanen's a great re-signing, but again, that doesn't fix your defense. I mean, your goaltending.
What's your message to Connor going into his last year when you're just filling in the holes with these?
Connor McDavid,
depending
on what happens this season, and I've said this already a couple of times, I think there's a good chance Connor McDavid is moved by trade deadline.
Wow.
You have to.
If the Edmonton Oilers are not good, and I'll be honest, I think they've gotten worse. They've lost Evander Kane, Connor Brown, Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson, John Klingberg, who again, he was another one grossly overpaid. But at the end of the day, you lost
$4 million.
So you've lost 5 players.
Corey Perry.
Did you say
Corey Perry? So 6 players who were legitimately, they were impact players in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I'm with Jacob.
Yeah.
Pardon, Lane?
I'm with you.
Jacob too.
You cannot do this, Mitch. I think teams are going to be more conservative now, especially if this Mitch Marner and this tampering going on. That you never know that behind the scenes that some player might be going, "Hey, Connor, I played in Boston, and Boston was great." You know what I mean? Like, you never know. We don't know what's going on right now. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and we don't even know what's going on with private conversations with players. And who's McDavid? Is McDavid talking to this guy about where should I play? Is this a good place to go play? And I don't think after this whole Mitch Marner debacle with him talking to Ryan Reeves and then playing this whole I love this city. This is going to be a real eye opener for teams about this. I love this city and I want to stay here. Song and dance game. I don't think teams are going to buy into that as much. And I'm with you. If McDavid won't sign a deal before the trade deadline, I'd be like, bye.
Okay, I would only do that if Edmonton. I don't feel the Oilers are a cup contender, and right now I don't feel they are. And also, too, McDavid might say, "I don't want to be here. I want to go somewhere where I have a chance to win a cup. I want to go to Florida when Matthew Tkachuk's injured again, so I can go win a cup in Florida in the last year where you don't have to follow any rules towards salary cap in the playoffs." Right. So I'm just saying here, if you're Edmonton, you need to. I think there's way more pressure on Edmonton and Stan Bowman than there is with Brad Treliving in Toronto.
100%.
Brad Treliving, I think with the cards he's been given, has done a pretty good job. By adding Marcel and Waugh and Chazzy, you might be surprised when I said this. I think Marcel and Waugh basically replace Marner's points. Marcel, I think, can get 70, and I think Waugh can get 40. There's 110 points right there.
55 and 45.
Crisis averted. There is absolutely no one on the market left who's going to get you a minimum 900 save percentage consistently. And that is what Edmonton needs. They need 90% of the shots saved consistently. And there's nobody on the market. And Dan, you can say James Reimer. James Reimer is too old. And if that is my solution to win a Stanley Cup right now, it is James Reimer. It was 4-1 for all you Leaf fans.
Does Nye's production go down with Marner gone now?
No, not at all. I actually think it might go up.
Same.
Yeah.
Because I think, again, Max Domi, who was on Matthews' line when Austin Matthews did have that 69 goals, great number, by the way. I think, if anything, it'll be interesting to see. Everyone goes on about what will these guys do without Marner? What will Marner do without Matthews? We haven't seen that really. Well, his whole career, he's either played with Matthews or Tavares.
He'll be fine in Vegas.
No, you know what?
Probably because he went to Vegas. It would have been really interesting if he went to like Chicago, where he had to be the best player. Vegas, he doesn't need to be the best player.
Yeah, but
you might say he does. He does not.
Jacob, you bring up a good point though. Who scores on Vegas? Like if you
Eichel?
No,
Mark Stone.
No, you know what's funny? If you look at Eichel's statistics, him and Marner are basically the same player. Like Eichel's more of an assist guy. Mm-hmm. Eichel's not known to be a big goal scorer. He's more of
you still have like William Karlsson and
but I'm just saying, but like who's gonna score like 50, 60 goals? Like, okay, yeah, he was good this year. And you know what the people aren't really realizing? Matthews played with we don't know what the injury was, but he played a whole season on a really bad injury and still put up 82 points. Like, and if what they're saying is true, then Matthews is actually 100% now. Who knows if Matthews can't get back to 50, 60 goals again?
Do we believe he's 100%, or do we believe he was ever injured? I don't.
Yes.
I do.
I believe he was injured.
They said it was
because
a year-long
Austin
injury.
Matthews in an off year was on pace for 102 points.
Yeah.
So, but getting more
What I'm
back to the
saying.
Edmonton Oilers, they're the team that I think right now out of the 7 Canadian teams has the most pressure. Although it's crazy to me right now by the odds makers, Montreal has a better chance to win a Stanley Cup next year than Toronto. So that's just an interesting one there on what people are saying on impact, basically of losing one guy. I look at it though, and it was Chris Johnson from TSN who nailed it on the head perfectly about Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner is a regular season player. He's not a playoff player because he's never proven that he is. So the Leafs they've lost a regular season player and they're not looking for regular season success. But Lane, right. I believe you have some breaking news. So what is this news you would like to break?
Well, it sounds like huge news, but the Blues at 12 o'clock in the morning have placed Nick Leddy on waivers.
Oh,
that just happened.
That could be a nice pickup with someone. I like Nick Leddy. He was a big part of Chicago's Cups. I really like him.
It's interesting.
Wow.
Very interesting.
I was going to say, interesting. I was just looking up as we were talking about everything there. Ryan Reaves is technically still under contract with a 1.3 cap hit in Toronto until next year. I think that Toronto might buy Reaves out.
Is that the rain in here? Now.
Yeah, it's Dwayne. It's crazy, dude.
I thought there was someone was knocking on my window.
No,
it's a lot of rain here.
I think Dwayne moved to you. Because the house died down here.
But I'm just saying for the Edmonton Oilers, I think they desperately need goaltending. They're gonna have to do this via trade now. And I don't
Who's even available in a trade?
That's what I'm also trying to figure out. And I still think it's a possibility Jake Ottinger gets moved out of Dallas. I know that's not been speculated by anyone except me. But I am does Edmonton, but I don't know what Edmonton gives up to bring in a guy like that. I think the Oilers are going to have the goaltending that they have.
We haven't talked about it too much on the island. I know, well, you guys may have. I wasn't here because of my head, but man, that Bouchard deal is awful. Like, what is it?
It's bad. Overpaid.
Okay, there are some deals where, I'm like, okay. The more I thought about it, with Dvorak, it's an overpayment, but it's only 1 year.
Yeah, I was going to say Dvorak one stepped out of my head, and I called it on the island in our free agent preview show. I said Dvorak, a bunch of did the right thing, letting him go, and Dvorak's going to get grossly overpaid. I predicted about 3.5. He got 5.4 from Philly, which is
But at the end of the day, it was only a 1 year deal, and Philly had a lot of cap space.
Yeah,
so
for
it's
sure.
So as much as I didn't like it, I'm like, at least I can understand. Philly has millions and millions of dollars to throw around. They want to go get Dvorak for 1 year. I don't think it really kills. It's only a 1 year contract. The more I thought about it, but the more I've been sitting on this Evan Bouchard deal, I'm like, what are you guys on? Like, what have you guys been drinking lately? Spoiled milk or some bad lemonade that went bad? Like, what is this? Like, what is this? 4 years? You don't even get 6 years on it, and it's over $10.5 million. Like,
it's a bad contract. It's
laughable.
He is the fourth highest paid defenseman in the NHL right now.
Jacob,
he's not
when
the fourth.
You said 9, when we were talking before, you said 9. I was like, yeah, okay, you're funny. 10.7? What is going on?
It's a bad contract.
Oh, it's horrible. He can't even play defense. The position.
I know it's going to be very. Like I said, I think the Edmonton Oilers got worse, not better. But time will tell. Maybe they will be as bad as the Edmonton Elks have been to start the Canadian Football League season after a few weeks. So I'd like to go over with you guys right now my CFL power rankings. And I already know Lane is not going to like them.
What? It's our fifth. I'm happy.
I have the Saskatchewan Roughriders at 1.
Yeah.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 2.
Yep.
Montreal Alouettes at 3.
Yeah.
Calgary Stampeders 4.
Ooh.
Hamilton Tiger Cats 5.
Ooh.
Toronto Argonauts 6th. Ottawa Red Blacks 7th. BC Lions 8th. Edmonton Elks 9th.
I think that's pretty fair, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
I
know
like
when
it.
you and I know we talked about in the live show when we were talking a bit about CFL. You're saying the BC Lions are the worst team in the CFL.
I think they might
Edmonton
be.
still hasn't won a game yet, though, and
Yeah,
that's kind
but-
of if both of these
without-
teams hadn't won a game yet, I would agree with you that the Lions are worse than the Elks. But the Lions beat the Elks.
My only thought process is just you've looked over the last. I don't know if you would feel what I was saying though. Excuse me. I was just saying, you looked at especially last week. If you look coming into last week, yeah, the Elks lost, but they lost to Winnipeg, and the game was close.
Mhm.
They put up a really good fight, and they looked like they could win. They put up a decent fight.
They can hang with them.
They can hang with them. You watch just the Lions playing the Rough Riders, and it looked like a high school team versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
And I mean, too, the Rough Riders were running out Jake Mayer.
Yeah, and it was like I was watching this game and I was like, man, the Lions suck. Like they're bad. Like they're actually bad.
My only reason for them where they are is they've won one game. If the Elks win this week and the Lions don't, that'll absolutely get flipped.
Right.
But right now,
yeah.
Right now for me, the Lions, and I've also I've seen some people putting the Calgary Stampeders as low as 6th. I don't agree with that because the one game they lost, yeah, they turned the ball over 5 times, which is horrible. But there were a couple turnover on downs by bad play calling by the coaching, and it was raining that game. I think in a non-rain game, the Calgary Stampeders beat the Ottawa Red Blacks probably pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I still have the Stampeders at 4. The Blue Bombers for me are still not number 1 because, well, they have less wins than the Rough Riders. Until the Rough Riders lose a game, I cannot put the Blue Bombers ahead of them.
That's true.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think
go ahead, Dan.
I think your power rankings make 100% sense. I really do. I think Bear Adams Jr. is going to pick it up. I think he's going to get better. The Argos did win a game, which was awesome. Good on them.
They wasn't even close.
Ticats won a game. Good on them. Ottawa, I think Ottawa is a little better team than people give credit for.
Not right now.
No, not right now. I agree with that. So we'll see what happens.
And I mean, I think it is fair to say that the majority of the top 5 is the West because right now the West is better than the East. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see with Montreal. Davis Alexander was not on their injured list or anything, so it looks like he's going to be coming back. So Montreal could be getting right back in the winning ways again. But for me, Montreal is slipping down to 3rd just because at the end of the day, they did lose to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And Hamilton's at 5th just because you beat Montreal. And even without your top quarterback, for me, beating Montreal was hard to do. And they did it by winning the turnover matchup, which is even harder to do against a team like Montreal. But those are my power rankings. That's where they are, and I'm sticking to them. If you don't like them, well, I don't know, make your own and challenge me on the Streakers app if you think I'm wrong about who's going to win. But I want to talk to you guys a little bit about fan engagement in the Canadian Football League. And so Dan and I were in Ottawa over the weekend to check out the Toronto Argonauts versus the Ottawa Red Blacks.
But I wonder, when did you guys go to Ottawa? I need to know. Sorry, quick recap. When did you guys go all the way to Ottawa?
On Sunday.
No, why? Anyway,
For the game.
You just woke up like, whoa, we're going to Ottawa.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's my first. How long of a drive was that?
4.5 hours.
Oh, not long. Like 4
4.5
hours?
from the Hammer.
I respect that. I was like, well, more brothers are in Ottawa. What?
But what I loved about
That's how we do it.
we also bumped into a good friend of the program, Mr. Shades, down there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Tea place. And man, Ottawa knows how to party. Now, a big part of it is where their stadium is. It's around a bunch of restaurants. at bars, and they got a bunch of red black swag everywhere, and like it's a real good environment. But even when you walk into the stadium, first thing you're getting is free swag, games, cheap beer, cheaper food. You have a storefront in the stadium before you walk in. You have another storefront the second you walk into the stadium. There is live music. There is just so much more going on. They had a whole bunch of games going on where you could do like target practice with football. They had a person walking on those like giant tall stilts that kids could throw the footballs to. There's just way more going on there than when you go to Toronto. I'll be honest, when you go to an Argo game pregame, unless you're tailgating in the parking lot, you're bored out of your mind. There's nothing going on. You line up for an overpriced beer and a cheap hot dog, and that's about it. Now, I mean, the Argos do have some cheap options for alcoholic beverages, but I mean, what I'm getting at is, and same in Hamilton, I didn't find when I went to the Ticats games, and Lane, maybe you can correct me, but I don't find Hamilton does a crap ton for pregame.
No.
Now, I know BC does. That owner, Damar Allman, he's been pulling all the stops. I mean, Winnipeg, they do a bunch of stuff there. I mean, Ottawa was Canada. They even have fireworks after the game. And after every game in Ottawa, you can go down to the field for half an hour and like throw a football around, take pictures, get right by the wall.
I know that.
They do that in Hamilton as well. Okay, see, Toronto doesn't. And it's just, I'd like to visit more CFL stadiums, and please send us a message and tell me what your local team does.
Well,
but I think the Ottawa Red Blacks really got it right. And truthfully, it made me feel like messaging my representative for season ticket holders and just being like, man, you guys need to do more. Like maybe that's a way, because it was a low attendance night for a Red Blacks game, and it was just under 18,000. And maybe this is a way to get more fans in by just offering them more to do. Make it a whole day. And like I know too, and I've seen the argument say, well, Toronto, there's not restaurants there around. Okay, well then bring in food trucks. Mm-hmm. You have all that open space. The road's closed half the time anyways. Having one ice cream truck and a hot dog vendor is not enough.
You know, I gotta agree, like not to make this about the Leafs, but I did just want to make it a quick comment. There's a quick comment about Keith Pelly saying, you know, he wants to be fan work issue, but to make that, just to bring it back to the CFL, yeah, you know what, like the CFL is a league that needs the funding at the end of the day, and it relies on its fans. And I do agree with you, Jacob. You know, at the end of the day, you need the fans to come out. You need to get the kids involved. Like, you know, even in baseball, you know, you got to give the credit to the Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. They don't do as much as other teams. I remember when I was in Detroit for a game in Detroit, they had some crazy things that they did for the games. Like you have to they put you in a baseball simulator. You could be like a baseball pitcher or a baseball batter, you can simulate a game, or they did these crazy things. Wow. But even in the Blue Jays, I gotta admit, they've stepped it up, right? They have those little areas now. They have like when I went on that cricket day, they had a cricket simulation game. They have like the beanbag area. They've got so they're doing things. They've got the video games set up. At least they got things that kids can do, right? And when you're bringing your kid to a game, you know, you want to bring your kid, you want to get them involved. Kids have short attention spans, right? We all know this. They go, wee, mommy. So they sound like that every 5 seconds. But if
they sound like Mitch Marner.
Yo, boy.
But no, I just feel like it was interesting too. And Dan, I don't know if you noticed this. There were a lot more young families at the Red Black game than there are at Argo games.
Not just young family,
but I also know more teenagers, more young adults.
Yeah.
Like I just think it's because they're doing, and talking with Shades, I'm like, is this normal for a Red Blacks game, or is it just because it's Canada Day weekend? He's like, no, this is actually pretty standard. So it's like, and let's be honest, MLSC has the money to do it. Maybe Edmonton, you got to do more too in Edmonton and Calgary. Like, I don't think BC can do much more than what they're doing. Winnipeg's selling out every game. Yeah, they've had 9 straight sellouts, so you can't complain about what they're doing. Saskatchewan is a phenomenal building, and I mean, they do. I've just seen it just alone, just from the just from watching it on TSN. They have a lot going on there, but maybe I'm looking at some of these other cities, and Lane, I know you mentioned that Hamilton does do the running around on the field at the end.
Yeah, they do.
But
They let that.
I think maybe for Hamilton and for Toronto, Edmonton, and Calgary, I'd like to see more the approach that the Ottawa Redblacks took. And even just, I was very surprised with Ottawa how welcoming the staff were right away as an away fan. And this is no disrespect to any Hamilton Tiger Cats whatsoever.
Now,
But as an away fan going to a Ticats game, it can be kind of intimidating. I'm just going to be honest with you there.
How did the Red Blacks fans treat you? Were they pretty respectful?
Very. We made some jokes with each other, but it's not like,
that's cool.
In some other cities, you're a little uncomfortable, right?
And for sure, yeah.
I mean, but also Ottawa had more security. They had more staff going around. It was just one of those things that was just really surprised how tight of a ship they ran. So I think maybe other teams need to take notice, and I want to bring in the show this week for the fan engagement, because it might seem weird to randomly bring this in coming into week 5 of the season, but it's fresh in my mind right now, and I really wanted to bring that up because, we're talking about growing the game, and I looked at Ottawa, and I'm like, maybe they need to take notes and figure out maybe, we need more than just the football game. You mentioned the Jays too. The Jays, I know, Lane, you said they don't do as much as some other areas in the MLB, but like the junior Jays games are a hoot and a half for kids.
Yeah, they have stepped it up.
And maybe, and there's always stuff, it's always buzzing in downtown Toronto. And I get people say, well, it's an exhibition place, there's not as much going on. Well, MLSC, just make it more interesting. Expand on the shipyard, have food trucks, have more bands, have more events going on there.
I will say, Jacob, just to add to your point, I agree every team's have a step up. I think saying Edmonton is a little unfair because Edmonton just started a new ownership. So you got to give them some time to get things going. And hopefully they do with the new ownership, especially Edmonton, because they got the biggest arena in the CFL. So you talk about attendance, which everyone in CFL does. That arena holds 76,000 people. So we only get like 12,000 fans there. It does look really empty, So, but give Edmonton a little bit of faith. The other thing I gotta say with Calgary and Montreal, there has been a lot of talks about building a new arena. So I think with Calgary, once they get a new arena at the Stampede's grounds, because that arena is really outdated, they will get some more stuff going. And if Montreal has been rumored a lot, they're moving back to Olympic Stadium. I haven't seen a game in Olympic Stadium, never in person. I've seen it on TV back in Anthony Caldillo days when he made it to the Grey Cup. Right? That was really cool. They host their playoff games in Olympic Stadium. So I really hope Montreal makes that move. And the thing with Toronto is, I agree with you, Jacob, it is week right now, but they are doing this construction with the World Cup of Soccer. So I'm giving MLSC a little bit of faith and saying I hope that they do more once they have the arena built and they do more, they have all the gates open and everything.
They had all the gates open before. It's not.
I agree with you. I totally agree. I'm just saying, I hope with all the excitement coming into World Cup of Soccer, they dumped all that money in the stadium. I hope they try to get more people in there and do more with it. Because it's going to look even worse, so empty with more seats in it.
It's just one of these things. I just saw what Ottawa was doing, and I'm like, maybe, this is something. And the commissioner's been going to all the different stadiums, the new commissioner, and kind of seeing what other teams are doing. So I just hope they do take notes at what is being done in Ottawa and maybe trying to find a way to implement that in other stadiums, just to bring in a little more oomph.
Yeah,
and bring in the fans. Because I don't think the product on the field is the problem. I think it's the lack of engagement. They always say, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. And how do you do that with a ring? You add engagement. So, yes, I will marry you, Winton McManus. Let's move on to the injury report in the Canadian Football League, and we'll start with the Toronto Argos. And it didn't get much better. Might have got a little worse. Janarian Grant was back, which is big, but the Argos are down Jack Gassard, linebacker, Cardle, offensive lineman, Griffin, offensive lineman, Hyman, linebacker, Chad Kelly, still limited practice. He will not be playing. Devontae McCon, ankle injury. He's still not playing. Winton McManus, linebacker. He's still not playing. Derek Parrish, defensive lineman, ankle, limited practice Tuesday, but still not playing. And Myron Williams, a head injury, which was suffered in the game against Ottawa. He got tackled, and then someone's knee landed right on the side of his head after his helmet popped off. So his eye was all really bruised, and you can see a huge bump on the side of his head. He's out, and he's not back anytime soon. So the Toronto Argos are still going to be down 9 players, and out of these 9, 7 of them would normally be in your starting lineup.
That's pretty scary.
Like, other teams have injuries, but not so many injuries to their starting core. So that's going to be a tough one for the Toronto Argonauts. A lot of injuries there. I mean, I will say, I think they played their best game of the year in week 4. I think that offense is really rolling with Nick Arbuckle now. But Lane, when you see that amount of injury, are you kind of a little, I'll be honest, I'm going to keep it a buck here. Are you a little bit happy that they're this banged up coming in to play Hamilton?
Yeah, you got to be a little bit happy, right? Like, well, yeah, a little bit happy, right? Definitely, especially because we want to win, right? Where I want to beat the Argos. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, Toronto Hamilton's always one of those rivalries that it's one of the biggest. And Hamilton's getting some players back. Greg Bell is back, practicing full. He's good to go. And Reggie Stubblefield, he is a good running back, Dan. But Stubblefield, this big stud you brought in to be to kind of lead your defense, was limited practice on Tuesday and is listed as questionable coming in for Friday night. Ooh. If you can get him back in Hamilton, he's a game changer, right?
Oh,
he's a guy that, if you guys aren't familiar with him, was in Montreal last year, was right up there for defensive player of the year in the voting. He ended up losing to McGowan in Saskatchewan, but I mean, that just, Rowan Milligan is one of the, I think he could have won MOP, never mind just defensive, never mind just MOD for the most outstanding defensive player.
Yeah, he was that good.
He won that, but I think he could have been the MOP for the year. But bringing in Stubblefield, if you get him back in Hamilton and you have a run game versus Toronto that probably won't have a run game again.
No, you got Kevin Brown.
Kevin Brown's not been working. They did just recently bring back a running back that they had cut not too long ago as well. So he will be on the line. He'll be in the lineup more than likely for Friday. But
who's that?
Time will tell, right? So
okay.
I don't have his name right in front of me, Dan, but time will tell. But you know what? There's some big injuries there for Toronto. We look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Brady Oliveira will be starting. Actually, he was listed as the starting running back for the tonight's game. So that's a big back for the Blue Bombers. And Chazzy, I'm sure you were kind of hoping you could have just been out one more week before you got to take him on with your Stamps.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, he is one of those guys that is he's an absolute game changer, right? But the Stamps looks like could be getting a game changer back in Damon Webb. He's been practicing full practice again. And Dan, you look like you are ready to, like, I don't know, just like eat your microphone. You're so excited about Damon Webb. Mm-hmm. So Damon Webb is a big piece for Calgary back, which the defensive group in Calgary, I think, has been a little underwhelming. So Dan, I'm sure you remember Webb got those 3 interceptions against Chad Kelly last year in Ottawa. So what do you got to say to Chazzy getting a stud like him back in the Calgary lineup?
That is huge. And I think Calgary has been underperforming so far this year. I think Vernon Jr. is one of those guys underperforming too. And I think Calgary has something to prove. And getting Webb back is a huge piece. And with getting him back, call me crazy, I think Calgary can make a big statement and possibly beat Winnipeg.
We'll get into that when we do our streakers picks. But Dan's already saying if you think Winnipeg is going to win, send him a rivalry. But time to move to the team that Lane thinks is the current worst team in the CFL, which is the BC Lions. Nathan Rourke was taking team one reps, but was sharing them with Chase Bryce. Jeremiah Masoli had a shoulder injury at the end of the last game and had a limited practice. Same with Matthew Betts. By the way, this isn't every single player who's injured in all these teams. I'm just kind of trying to highlight the top guys. So it looks like Nathan Rourke will be back for BC, which I'm curious, Lane, since you've been saying you think BC is the worst team in the league, which I don't even fully disagree with you.
After what I've seen.
I agree with Lane. I think it's the worst.
How much better do you think the team is of Nathan Rourke, or is there a lot more problems than just inconsistent quarterback play?
I think there's more issues. I just like, again, you guys went on about how you don't even think that the Saskatchewan backup was that. And I don't have to be disrespectful. Trevor Harris is the starter there, and Jake Mayer. And I asked you guys how big Jake Mayer. You're like, he's an all right guy, but not necessarily the team. And just when I was watching that game, it just felt like they could do nothing to stop them. That defense looks worse than Swiss cheese. I'd rather Swiss cheese than that defense. Like, they were getting picked apart left and right. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop them on second down plays. They were going for it. It just seemed like this team cannot make plays when they have to. You talked about the Ticats. We talked about the Jays. You got to make plays when you have to make plays. And it just feels like right now the BC Lions cannot make a play when they need to. I feel with the Elks when watching that game. I get these are two different teams, but I just feel like when I watched the Elks versus the Blue Bombers, the Elks, they struggled in certain areas, but they made plays when they had to. When they had to make a big play to shut down Zach Claros, they did do it at times. When they had to get a big first down, Trey Ford got them that first down. I'm watching BC right now, 2nd and 4. They can't get the first down. It's 2nd and 13 for the other team, and they're converting it. Like, they're just not making the plays when they have to. I don't know.
And I'm very worried about the BC Lions defense, especially about
awful
potentially being out. That defense cannot stop the run. Like,
you can't stop anything.
But especially the run. I mean, AJ Oleches, never mind, had a good game. AJ Oleches ran over them.
Oh, literally. Yeah, he dominated.
To me, that defensive line in BC could be a real problem. So I'm seeing everyone say when Nathan Rourke's back, this is a very good team. And I'm just going to be honest here with you boys. I was talking to some of the fans at TD Place when we were there over the weekend, and I'm seeing a lot of people agreeing with Dan and I that we have mixed reviews on Nathan Rourke, that he hasn't really done it consistently at this level yet because he got injured, then he left, then he came back, then he kind of sucked, then he got injured again now. We don't know what Nathan Rourke will be consistently. So time will tell with the BC Lions. Yes, they could be getting Rourke back, but if you have Matthew Betts out, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
That defense has struggled. The offense has been inconsistent. James Butler's not been the running back that he was when he was there before 2 years ago. And it's just very interesting to see what's going on there. But if you want to move on to Montreal Alouettes, Davis Alexander wasn't even on the injury report anymore, so I'm assuming that means he is good to go. Austin Mack, however, did not practice at all.
Not Randy Moss.
Out. So I think, too, with the recent signing of Alexander Holland, who was a 1,000-yard guy in BC last year, I think this means Austin Mack is out long-term. And Austin Mack being out long-term is a huge loss for this team.
Oh, yeah.
He is a top 10 receiver in the CF. He's a top 9 receiver, not even top 9, I guess, top 5 receiver in the CFL.
We turn up the Mac.
He's one of those guys that it's going to really be on Tyson Philpott now and Cole Speaker to pick up the slack.
He's got to be in top 3 receivers to CFL, really.
I mean, that would be an interesting conversation because I didn't agree with a lot of TSN's lists. So I think once we hit the halfway point, we're going to do our top players at the halfway point because we didn't get him in before the season started. But I want to move now on to the Ottawa Red Blacks and their injuries. Drew Brown is limited practice, but there's been speculation we could see him starting this week. let's be honest, if Drew Brown is starting, this Ottawa team is a very different team. No disrespect to Dustin Crum, but Drew Brown in his first start of the season threw 414 yards. Dustin Crum hasn't done that, I don't think, between the first 2 games.
Yeah.
So it's just not the same. You've also, for Ottawa, Addison, who was hurt in the game against the Argonauts, he did not participate in practice so far. So I'm assuming he is going to be out for a little bit. Again, just another really big loss for the Ottawa Red Blacks, who are in tough after losing to Toronto, because now they are tied with Toronto and Hamilton for the amount of wins. And if Hamilton and Toronto can start to get going, which I mean, at least for Ottawa, one of those teams will lose. But if you're Ottawa here, you're a little concerned, especially if Dustin Crum's not healthy. I mean, if Drew Brown is not ready to go, and now you're losing Baron Addison, who is probably your most versatile wide receiver. He can be used in the running back position. They use him in jet sweeps a lot. He's also a good deep target. And you have Eugene Lewis, who I couldn't believe has made a couple drops the last 2 games that you never see him make before. Justin Hardy hasn't looked quite as good this year as he did last year. So
I hate to say it,
with Addison being hurt, and if Drew Brown's not back, he might be in a bit of trouble.
I hate to say it, but if Ottawa loses this game, they're going to start hitting the panic button, because for a while they're like, oh, we're not doing that great, but Hamilton and Toronto sucks. Well, Toronto just beat you, and Hamilton's got to win. I think, didn't Hamilton beat Ottawa?
Montreal.
Oh, sorry, Montreal. So now Toronto and Hamilton's got to win. So you keep struggling, you're going to be tied with Toronto and Hamilton as well, which you don't want. So,
no, exactly, Dan. I agree with you there, but I think it's time we move on now to Week 5 itself, and then we'll get into some baseball news and some NBA news. Because there's just apparently 12:34 in the morning, we're learning, is a very exciting time in the sports world.
Oh, yeah.
Let's start off with the Thursday night matchup, which is the matchup that I'm sure Chazzy's the most excited about this week, which is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers versus the Calgary Stampeders. This is a big game for Calgary. And for Winnipeg. As Winnipeg wants to keep pace with Saskatchewan, Calgary wants to get back into that race for first in the West. And if they can find a way to beat Winnipeg, well, all of a sudden they're back in that race. So who are you boys taking on the Thursday night matchup? The Winnipeg Blue Bombers or the Calgary Stampeders? Chazzy, I'll start with you.
Stampeders on the new grass.
On that new grass. Yep, I mean, that's a good pick. Lane, who are you thinking?
I'm going Winnipeg, especially with Brady Oliveira. Brady Oliveira's back. I'm thinking Winnipeg here.
I am going to stick with the CEO, not just because he's kind of my boss, but also because I think it's the right call. And I'm going to say the Calgary Stampeders, Vernon Adams Jr. would love some revenge against Winnipeg, and I think he's going to get the job done. I'm going to say the Calgary Stampeders in a close one. Mr. Moore, for your money, are you going to agree with Chazzy and I, or are you going to take the safe pick that Lane took? Because Winnipeg's the safe pick, maybe the right pick, but the safe pick nonetheless.
Dan, always go with the most good-looking guy. That's what I always say.
Well, Mr. Daskell, you are good-looking, but Chazzy's also gorgeous. So, well, for that reason, I'm going with Calgary.
Turn the camera off.
Ouch, it's not bad.
You don't get anywhere in this city.
Ouch.
Now let's get into some of our props here, and I want to start off with Mr. Dashko.
Oh.
Will the Winnipeg Blue Bombers put up at least 320 yards passing?
320? No.
You don't think 320?
That's a lot.
Calgary's secondary has struggled at times, though.
I think they would, actually.
Yeah, you think 320 on, I don't know. You guys know better than me. That's just something I could see. What's Zach Collaros has been struggling to get 300, though, hasn't he?
He was really good last week.
I think they could run, but Brady Oliveira's back. They're a run-heavy team. I don't know. I'm going to say no.
True.
I think they're going to pound the ball more.
Well, that's a good point,
Interesting point of view.
I say
Mr.
no.
Moore, for your money.
Yes, sir.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense is a team that likes to pressure the quarterback. Well, they sack Vernon Adams Jr., who is very elusive, at least 3 times.
No. I think they made the big
what is
trade
this?
by trading Judge so that really good defensive linebacker from Toronto. How do you say his name, Jacob?
Flo.
Flo, thank you. And I think Flo's going to have a really big game. So I'm going to say no, but not going to sack him 3 times.
Okay. Mr. Chazzy. Vernon Adams Jr. is coming off his worst game so far as a Stampeder. Will he put up at least 275 passing yards against this Winnipeg defense? I know it's a tall ask, but I think VA is possible to do it. You look puzzled.
No, I have belief he's going to. Yes.
You believe he will. I agree with you on that one. But last, but certainly not least, I think the Calgary Stampeders are going to try to run the ball a bit more. I actually think Calgary is going to finally break through Winnipeg's defense that's really been dominant this whole season. And I think Calgary is going to get a total of 120 rushing yards because I think VA is going to run the ball himself. And Dedrick Mills is a very good running back. So I think between them and some short yardage plays, they're going to put up 120 total rushing yards.
Wow.
Now I want to go around the room. Combined 50 points. Yes or less? Dan?
Yes.
Lane?
I'm going more, yeah. I'm going over. I'll say over 50.
Chazzy?
Yes.
No.
Really?
I think Winnipeg's going to actually have a slow offensive game. I think it's going to be a bit of a tug of war between figuring out if they want to pass the ball or run the ball.
Huh.
So I'm going to say no. I'm going to 45, but still keep the prop at 50 so I can be right. But let's move on now to the Friday night football, which is the Toronto Argonauts versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, this is the game.
So I'm gonna start off with the more interesting. No, screw it, Dan. Who's gonna win this one?
Argos, bro. I mean, last year Argos lost all 3 games against the Ticats in the season. They can't do that again. They gotta figure out a way to beat them. And I know Argos have a lot of injuries, but it's just time for their backup players to step up. So let's go Argos.
Okay, Lane, who are you taking?
Jacob, I need to be full screen for this one.
Okay.
Only Jacob controls that button.
Now I know most of you people are listening on Spotify, so hopefully you're not driving. But if you're not driving, you just stand up out of your chair. You ready, boys? Oski wee wee, Oski, holy Machina, Tigers, eat 'em raw, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Ticats all the way, baby. They're going to win this game. Beat the Argos every game. Last year, we're winning. It's our year. Let's go.
It's your year? What?
It's like the Leafs. It's always a year.
Toronto Argos, go.
Pull together, fight the full. Score, touchdown to the Blue.
The Argos will win for you. Toronto
you.
Argonauts are winning this one. Toronto Argos. Chazzy is just sick of all our singing and dancing, so he's just turned off his camera. But the Toronto Argonauts are winning this one because they are going to. I agree with Dan. They lost all the games against Hamilton last year.
Yeah,
Ryan Dimwitty ripped them a new butthole after the loss against Saskatchewan, and they played their best game, overall team game of the year, including Sluka, by the way, is the first player in Canadian football history to have 2 touchdowns over 100+ yards. So congratulations to him. But as I said, I think all those answers were the obvious ones. So, Mr. Chazzy, you have the one that is the not obvious because you don't really like either team. So, who are you taking?
I'm going to go with Lane's Ticats.
Let's go. Let's go.
Whoa.
You're just saying that because Levi Mitchell used to be in Calgary. So you're like, I'll take the former Stamp. I get it. Stamp rhymes with a word that I'm not going to say that starts with T on the podcast. Remember that. But now
I know that word.
Don't say the word, but let's get into our custom props because the bird is the word. Yes, congratulations, Lane. But
I was going to say, I can't believe you
I
said
didn't
it.
say it. I didn't say it. That's a cramp.
But will Bo Levi Mitchell, Mr. Chazzy, throw at least 300 yards against this Argonaut defense, who just came off their best defensive outing of the year?
No.
Ooh, that was fast. Mr. Dashko, Hamilton was able to pick McLeod Buffalo Thompson off twice. Will they be able to do the same against Nicholas Arbuckle the third? He's not the third. I just want to call him that.
Yeah, I do. I do think it's gonna. I think their defense is gonna step up. The Ticats have always been known to have a really good defense. I always think that. I know I said the same thing about our offensive lineup being great, but I think our defense is very consistent. It's been a thing that I've always found is good. I think it's gonna step up there in a rival game, get some big interceptions. I do think so.
So, Mr. Moore, for your money.
Yes, sir.
The Toronto Argonauts running game only put up, I believe, 36 yards against Ottawa.
Yeah,
do you think they can put up at least 50 combined rushing yards against Hamilton? I've set the prop low for the rushing yards.
Yeah, I think Kevin Brown's gonna have a big game today, Friday.
Well, if he has a big game today, then he's gonna help either Winnipeg or Calgary.
Yeah,
but
I get my days mixed up here on the island, bro. This feels like one big happy day.
I gave myself the Nick Arbuckle prop at 255 yards or more, and I think he'll hit that against this Hamilton defense. The reason why I think he's going to hit that in this Hamilton defense, I have noticed Hamilton likes to leave the short to medium throws open, and those are the type of throws that Nick Arbuckle likes to hit. I think you're going to see a lot of quick crossing routes from Toronto, which will then open up the odd deep shot. And also, too, DeMonte Coxey, I think right now is the best receiver in the CFL. I'm just putting that out there.
Say that.
He had 2 unbelievable catches against Ottawa last week. And every week he seems to be making a catch. We're like, what?
Literally.
So, I mean, right now, I think he's the best receiver in the Canadian Football League. And Hamilton's going to have a really hard time containing him. And if they do, it's going to leave either Tavares Daniels or Kevin Mitau open. And I also don't think the Argos will have at least 50 rushing yards, and they're going to have to throw the ball again.
Ouch. The thing is, 255 is a weird number, but that's a beautiful thing with the Streakers app. You can put any weird number you want.
You can make every prop 69 if you really want to, which I know one of the viewers really wants me to do that. But now I want to move on to combined points. 53 points, yes. Or
more.
Less. So you're
way
saying
more.
So you're saying high scoring game according to Mr. Dashko.
Oh, I think it will be
going to put up 70 points probably is what he said.
No, I think this is I wouldn't even make it 60. Like I just think these two Jacob, come on, these two teams hate each other. They're gonna be the offense is gonna be flying out there. Both teams want to put up points like mad respect. I think both teams want to prove a point here. I think it's gonna be the game of the week. I really do.
Yeah, for sure.
Chazzy, yes or less? 53.
Less.
Really?
More for?
Higher.
I'm going with Chazzy and saying less. I think both these teams hate each other, and we're going to see more of a defensive battle.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And also, too, I'm just going to say this right now. I think Bo Levi Mitchell, I don't know. I still don't have faith in him yet. I haven't seen enough consistency either.
Future Hall of Famer.
That's great. But good for him. But until I see consistent success in Hamilton, which we haven't really seen yet. But now I want to move on to the Lions versus the Alouettes. Lane, I'm going to let you pick first because I think you're going to definitely see Lions. So Montreal's going to take this Saturday night.
Finish your sentence, Montreal.
So, Mr. Moore, who are you taking?
Montreal Alouettes.
I'm going to be boring and also go
I don't know if I said that right.
I think you did.
Because I don't really, even with Nathan Rourke, I don't know about this team. Chazzy, are you going to stick with the boring TV or are you going to take the Lions?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you guys and go the Owls.
Now it's time for some props. Montreal Alouettes looks like we'll be having Davis Alexander back. So, Mr. Chazzy, will they throw at least 275 yards against this Lions defense?
Yes.
Mr. Lane.
Oui.
Looks like Nathan Rourke will be back in the lineup. Will he be able to put up at least 265 yards against this stingy Owls defense?
Je ne suis pas le français un petit peu, no.
Holy cow, he speaks French.
Un petit peu.
Wow. I play super pay. CFL did toilet.
For our English viewers, no.
Mr. Morfor, will
Yes,
the
sir.
Montreal Alouettes get at least 2 sacks?
Oh, yeah.
I am going to pick a weird one here, and I think the Lions are actually going to get off to a hot start and lose. I think the Lions are going to put up 20 points in the first half. And I think Montreal's going to come from behind.
What?
So the BC Lions are putting up 20 points in the first half.
Wow.
Jacob, what have you been have you been drinking tonight?
I've been maybe this is a little.
He's got the wrong water bottle.
With
Now
silver
let's go to the combined points, or my favorite segment, yes or less. 55 is my magic number for this one. More for yes or less?
Higher.
So yes.
What?
Mr. Lane.
I'm going
Yes
less. I think
or
this is gonna less. I think it's gonna be a blowout, and it'll just get. I think this will be less.
Chazinator 6.99 update pending.
Less.
I'm going to go with more for and say yes.
It's because they're
55.
brothers.
Oh, we usually disagree, actually.
Yeah, we usually fight, bro.
But let's go to the last game
fighting.
on our Sunday night heater between the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Edmonton Elks. Who takes this one, Dan?
Oh. I'm going to go off the board and say Ottawa.
Who takes this one, Lane?
I'm really hoping Edmonton gets the win here. Like they've been getting better. I'm seeing the progress. I'm starting to see the team clicking. They're at home here. I'm hoping this is their breakout here. Just like I hoped the Ticats would break out against Montreal. I hope this is their breaking out moment. They can finally get going here. I'm going to say Edmonton. I think this can be their moment here.
I'm also going to take the Edmonton Elks. I think they're due a win. I also think they know they have a chance of maybe getting a crossover spot in the East, so they got to beat a team like Ottawa to get there.
Well, if they lose this game, they're toast. I think they're in trouble.
I'm going to take Edmonton in this one. But Chazzy, who are you taking?
I'm going to take Ottawa.
I will say if Drew Brown's back, there's a very good chance in that one. Even with Dustin Crum, you never know. But Mr. Lane, will Trey Ford throw at least 230 passing yards?
Yes.
Mr. Morfor, the Hat Man. Will Ottawa get at least 2 sacks? That's going to be tough against Trey Ford, but they are a sack-hungry defense.
Yeah, I think they will.
Mr. Chazzy, the Elks have been one of the top rushing teams in the league. Will they be able to rush at least 150 combined yards?
No.
Wowzers. I'm giving myself, will Mr. Lewis get at least 1 touchdown? And I'm going to say yes. After going on that touchdown streak, he's on a touchdown slump. He's going to break out of it. Now, combined points, yes or less, 49. Dan?
Yes.
Chazzy?
Less.
Lane?
To 49 points?
49.
Less. More. Okay, less. I don't know.
Well, you need to
Maybe.
know. I'm going to say yes. I think 49 points is kind of what will be around. Now, those are the CFL games for this week. Remember to make sure you have your Streakers app on your phone so you can play along in our sports booth. Pick the props, prove us right or prove us wrong. Show us that we're dopes or show us that we're geniuses. Now, Lane, you have some breaking MLB news before we get into that.
Yeah, he's been patiently waiting for a while to break us so we're done our CFL segment. So let's go.
Yeah, I do. So tonight, Clayton Kershaw, who's been a longtime pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, has hit 3,000 strikeouts just in the game tonight. He's the 20th player to ever hit that milestone and only the 4th left-handed pitcher to ever do that. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Clayton Kershaw. Been a really good. He's been pitching for a very long time, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but 3,000 strikeouts is a very respectable career. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out that I just saw that in the middle of the podcast here tonight. So I just want to give a shout out to Clayton Kershaw hitting that on the milestone alert there tonight.
Congratulations to Mr. Kershaw. That's an incredible milestone.
That's huge.
That's awesome.
But now I want to move on to the NBA, and I want to start off with the Milwaukee Bucks. What the heck? They cut Damian Lillard. I get he has some injuries, but still. And now Giannis Antetokounmpo is Giannis Antetokounmpo not happy. He's really angry. So it looks like he's on the move. My question is, do you see both of these studs going to the same team again?
Toronto?
No.
Who? Lillard?
Lillard and Antetokounmpo.
Well, he's out for the whole next year.
Well, maybe
I think he's out for the whole season.
He finds a really good doctor, and he's back sooner. I don't know.
Hey, free healthcare in Canada. It's coming in Toronto.
So then where does Giannis Antetokounmpo land?
Toronto.
I was thinking Golden State, but I don't know now, especially after this new rumor that just happened. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm perplexed now because after seeing that, I would have said Golden State, but we got to talk about some breaking news. Do you think we should break it, Jacob? Because this changes
Go ahead,
everything.
break it, Lane. Break it like my back.
So as we're recording just about 20 minutes ago, and I had to make sure this was legit. So according to Fred Katz and Kelly LKO, who are two high reported NBA analysts,
They're high.
The trade for Kevin Durant cannot be. So I had to figure out how this was official. The Kevin Durant trade has been announced, but it's not like officially announced till July 7th is when the trades can actually be eligible. So they're saying that now that Kevin Durant trade may not be what we thought it was. It may be a historic 7-team trade. There have been there has been I don't know. Nobody knows how this is going to work, but I'm just telling you, this has been announced. It was announced 20 minutes ago. There has been ongoing talks of what could be and might be a historic 17 trade involving the Rockets acquiring Kevin Durant. The teams involved could be the Phoenix Suns, the Houston Rockets, the Atlanta Hawks, the Brooklyn Nets, the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Minnesota Timberwolves.
The quarter of the league.
I don't know. They haven't said how it will work, but they're not sure if it's going to happen. But that has been verified by two NBA analysts that on July 7th, when when Kevin Durant trade is announced, it may be not a trade, but a historic trade where lots of pieces are moving.
Do you guys think that maybe the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade, nothing gets done until we figure out what's happening with that?
100%.
That's a lot.
That's insane.
Was that many teams involved? Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that's. I had to make sure I did check both.
How does that work?
I'm not. Because apparently the trade. So I was reading into it that they said the trade isn't official till July 7th. So there could be this. Even though the trade call had happened, there can be teams can jump in and off. I guess it hasn't been an official trade. It's just like the analysts got a hold of it, but they don't actually know the whole breakdown. So now that they're finding out more about it, they think they're just hearing there's going to be a lot more involved in this trade with cap reasons and players just kind of moving teams. Again, I don't know how this is going to break down. We're going to have to see what happens on July 7th here when that trade's official, but they're just saying get ready because it might be crazy.
Wow. We'll have to make sure we're on July 7th when that breaks because that's so yeah, I guess then realistically
that's Monday, isn't it?
Wait. Pardon?
Yeah, that's Monday.
You're on Monday.
Yeah, you're on Monday. It's a manic Monday.
Yeah, so
you kind of just gotta wait. I guess the Bucks are gonna wait it out. But I still think now the Raptors might be interested. I've heard they want to move RJ Barrett, which I don't get why.
That's stupid.
But Actually, I want to see if you boys think I'm absolutely crazy. I would actually move Scotty Barnes before RJ Barrett.
Yeah, I agree.
Really?
See, you look so put off. So why? What does Scotty Barnes do that's so remarkable?
Nothing. He eats Subways.
I'm asking Chazzy, Dan, not you.
He's a lot younger, though.
Yeah,
He's a lot younger.
he's your staple, or you've made him as your staple. You're building
Yeah, but
around
should
him.
he be the staple?
From what you have right now, absolutely.
But would you be willing to move him to bring in Antetokounmpo?
I'd move another piece before considering that.
Would you move two pieces instead of moving Barnes?
Two pieces, well, and maybe
Barrett and quickly. Would you move both of them instead of Barnes?
Who are you moving for? Who are you getting back?
Antetokounmpo.
No.
So would you get Antetokounmpo if you're the Raptors? I wouldn't, actually.
I would not. No.
I wouldn't either.
Do you think they will go for it, though? Because Masai Ujiri's gone. He's the one that liked to make the big splash.
No, I don't think so.
Could he
So
go
I'm
to New
going to
York?
put this out here then. Antetokounmpo is going to go to the Lakers.
Oh,
Then
it's just
need a big
Well, they
three in
did just
LA.
sign some.
LeBron James wants to win a championship with his son, so he can put his kid inside the trophy and sit him in there like a little toddler. Daddy, we won. So to
Yeah,
do that,
It's like
turned down the
20.
deal? Didn't he just turn down some $15
yeah, but then
million?
he'll just go, son, I want to play with you again, my son, and then he'll just sign the deal.
But apparently the Lakers have just signed DeAndre Ayton for $34 million. So I don't know how they're going to fit this. I know everyone thinks you don't have a salary cap in the NBA, but you do. I don't know how
It's a weird one though.
How are you
The salary
making
cap
like?
doesn't break.
So
That's crazy.
when I play I'm no expert here, but when I played the video game, I kind of understand it. It's more of like, I don't know how to describe it, but it basically be like in hockey, like if you had 5 players, but like let's just say for example, I'll put it in as an example. Let's say what the Leafs did. Let's say the Leafs had only 5 players, and they drafted Matthews, Marner, and Leander, right, to keep them for more than 5 years. They would have gotten like a huge advantage because you can sign players to like almost any value they want if you're on their team, and you get what's called the Larry Bird right. You get to use all the.
I like Larry Bird.
I was really loud. But there's it's like a cap thing you can use. It's called the Larry Bird rights. It's like the Larry Bird cap, right? So you get to like sign your players for extra money. But if you acquire other players, like you try to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo, you may not be able to. Like you have to have him on a team for like, I think it's almost 5 years before you get your bird rights. It's really complicated, but the NBA basically, their cap is to keep the players you keep. You can kind of basically do whatever you want, but when you bring in a player, you can't really sign them until like you got to keep them on their team for a few years before you can really use the salary cap. It's really complicated, but based on the video game, that's what I've always ran into. When you sign your own players, you get to keep them for whatever you want. I don't know who's drilling in 2:00 in the morning, but your neighbors probably don't like you.
Okay, so Dan just decided to vacuum. I tried to mute his mic in time. I don't know why he didn't just mute.
I was like, I don't know who's doing construction at 1:00 in the morning. Your neighbor might very much.
Oh, I didn't think you guys could hear it. I thought I hit my mute button. So I saw Ant.
But yeah, Chazzy, do you understand it at all? Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? The bird rights.
Oh yeah,
It's crazy
well,
how you.
it's mind-boggling how the league can throw that much money.
You can give Shai Alexander anything you want, but if you acquired like Giannis Antetokounmpo, you can't sign him, but you can give Shai Alexander whatever he wants because you drafted him.
I don't make sense though.
I like Larry Bird.
Well, can Stan's just vacuuming and going on about nonsense? I think it's time that we wrap up the show.
No, I like Larry Bird.
Before we go, Dan, you have a island mindset for us, so this could be interesting.
Yeah. Well, Jacob already took the mindset earlier in the show, but I'll just expand on it. Jacob and I went to a Red Blacks game, and we were in our Argo gear, which is the away team, but staff and the fans at the game And even outside the game, when we went to a restaurant, had lunch, and we walked around shopping for CFL swag, and we went up and down walking the canal when we got there really early for a parking spot we didn't need to get there for. You know, everyone we went into was amazing people. So I give props to Ottawa and the fans and the people. So being a first-class city, and that's how every CFL team should be. I'll just call it out since we already did here on the show anyway. Sometimes when you go to a Ticats game in an Argo jersey, you have a target on your back. And I'm sure there are other teams in the league are the same, like maybe possibly Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. I don't know. I haven't been, but let me know if I'm right. But Ottawa was world class. Like, I give the city and fans a lot of prop for doing that. I think the West City League should take a sample and do the same thing.
Couldn't agree with you more, Dan. I think you got to make your fans feel very welcomed. And by the way, this when we say things like that about Hamilton, this is not a shot at all Hamilton fans. There are plenty of great Hamilton people. We actually got talking with one of a really good Hamilton fan from the Tiger Cats News Network podcast. Fantastic guy who also does big walks for cancer involving the Canadian Football League and Argonauts fans and Hamilton fans, reuniting them. So
they did the QEW walk last year.
I think what Dan Moore means by this is more inclusion, less exclusion.
100%. Yeah.
On that note, I have to go to the washroom, so we're going to call it an episode. Thank you so much for watching the Streakers Island podcast. If you're looking for more content, make sure you follow us on all the social medias. Follow us on social media. Chazzy's on LinkedIn, so you can find him there. That's where you can find his beautiful face with his profile picture.
He's probably got the best LinkedIn profile in history. Probably use his profile to show people what you can do with profiles.
Thank everyone for watching. We will be back on later tonight for a Thursday night football game preview, and we'll have a special guest for the post game. Thank you very much, everyone. Lane doesn't know about the guest yet, so he's just like, oh.
I was making Jacob laugh so hard about the vacuum. He has to go to the bathroom now.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you in a few hours.
Bye-bye.